hear myself through my headphones. Yes, man. Like, I feel real good about this right now.
Pay attention, because you are now listening to Permission to Speak Freely.
Yeah, it's crazy that we had so much fun before we started behind the scenes, because we talked about this. We talked about coming in to this episode, and as we took a week off, which was intentional, and then we took a week. The day we would have recorded was the 28th of February, right? So we would have been recording.
Everything lit off.
That day. So I guess I want to start with just our thoughts about just like the state of us before we get into that. We are joined by Commander Charles Ferguson. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a long-time listener, so it's good to be here talking to you guys live.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you came, and we even talked to Commander Ferguson, who's an active duty chaplain, about just this episode, like the approach to it, and all things. And chime in whenever you want. Charles, is that what you go by, Charles?
Yeah, I go by Charles. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so just chime in whenever you want. I'm probably gonna say chaps. I'm probably gonna say commander. I'm probably gonna say sir. I'm probably gonna say Charles throughout this conversation.
I'm used to it all. I lost when I was a submarine guy, I became a weapons officer back in 2003, and I lost my name then, and I've either been called Weps or Chaps ever since then. So whatever it works.
Yeah, Chaps is where I'm probably most comfortable at.
Yeah.
But so we got to start here for the listeners, just like where we are right now. And to be honest, I think last week or some point in time, I text Damon and I text Aaron, and I told them that like we should probably just take a break from doing a podcast. I think I said, it wasn't a text, it was a voice message. I think I said like we're a peacetime pod, like we're a peacetime pod, not a wartime pod. And I mean, and really what I meant was, it's just certain things that like I know and I'm cognizant of that people want you to say, need you to say, or don't need you to say, at a given time, right? And this is not the given time for every single conversation, right? So luckily we had the debate about if you should put sugar on your grits and sugar on your rice 2 weeks ago, right? Because we probably won't be having that debate this week. And another thing is, just for the listeners, so you know already, or the people that watch, the clips are going to be limited for a while, right? While we are in this conflict that we are in. Anything else about the podcast that I need to mention, Damon?
No, nothing really about the podcast, man. We kind of talked about it, but we also talked about like what we feel and what we doing, and how people sometimes, they looking forward to us podding, and we didn't want to we came to a conclusion. We didn't want to stop, doing it, man. We want to get a listener something and give them our feel on what we think. So we're going to talk a little bit about, what's going on and things like that. But what I will say this, what I'm not going to do anyway, or what we're not going to do, I'm not going to criticize political leaders. I'm not predicting the war. I'm not discussing classified operation capabilities. I'm not, doing any of that stuff when we talking about it. So if anybody out there was thinking that that's what we were going to be doing when we talk about it, we're not.
Yeah. If you're a listener, you had to know that we wasn't.
Yeah,
You wasn't. Yeah. You can't wait till they come out so they could really say no, not at all. Man, we got friends in these places, and we gonna get into some of that stuff too. And just so the responsibility. Yes, we have a response because the world didn't stop, right? The Navy didn't stop. Nav admins are still going to be published. Instructions, policies are still going to be changed. It's still things going on. There's still people that need to benefit from whatever it is they benefit from when they listen to us and every other platform that's out there having conversations. But we knew we had to kind of park here for a little bit before we move anywhere else. And we'll throughout time, like, yes, we'll go back into, debates about, like, do you put butter and sugar on rice, right? But throughout time, we will also be staying as up to date as we can with things going on with Operation Epic Fury. And again, like Damon said, probably not like doing security briefings, but more like, hey, this is what's happening and this is how it's connected to us in more intimate ways than like operational type stuff. Right? You got anything on that, Aaron?
Yes. The best way that I thought about, when we talked about it after your message, and I thought about two things. And once again, to reemphasize to people who listen and follow, we are active duty. That is our North Star. That's what we do. This is something we do to talk about, but we're not going to say anything that is going to make it harder for our brothers and sisters who are actively engaged in Operation Epic Fury and who are about to still support, because we're all supporting it in some form or fashion. So we're not going to say anything like Damon said. We're not going to be talking about logistics and tactics and strategy, and more importantly, give opinion, because we have no opinion to give. Our opinion is making sure that we're honoring our uniform and supporting each other and people who are deployed. The best analogy I heard that kind of resonated with me was that you ever seen like former athletes who are talking about their current teams? They don't want to say anything that makes it harder for the person that's in uniform. So yeah, we're not going to do anything like that. Last thing I'll say is talking about sugar grits and light conversations. We can have those. If you're on deployment, you can have those conversations, but there is something that can be too soon. And we're too early in this to have some light conversations about it. So,
yeah. And then we all like kind of meet at a crazy intersection because none of us are like on ships right now, right? Chaps, are you on your way to like a carrier or somewhere like that?
No, I'm going to my last duty station to retire from, and it's not an operational one. So
okay,
those days are behind me as well.
Okay, so none of us right now are on ships, but we're all at unique commands, and we all will be affected by this, and one way or another. So I'll start with like just how, and then maybe if we could just around the room it, but I'll start with how I'm most likely going to be affected by this, and that's I work at the ceremonial guard, and like things like plane side honors, remains coming back to Dover from the heroes that we lose, and Operation Epic Fury. My sailors will be directly connected to that. I already reached out to like we get for the job that we do. We get embedded fleet and family counselors that come to my command pretty often. We also get a lot of really good chap support. We're on an Air Force base, so we also get military family life counselors, the MFLAT counselors. They're embedded at my command too, because we got casket bearers, and our casket bearers are impacted by 5 funerals a day, 3 funerals a day, things of that nature, right? Fluids, like drip. I think I spoke about it before. And it'll be very close to home for them because these actions are happening in real time, and the body, and the remains, and everything will be kind of happening in real time. And some of these people will be their age, or younger, or slightly older. So that's a big way that my command is going to be heavily, connected to Operation Epic Fury.
Yeah, I'm at Walter Reed.
Yeah,
and my lieutenant commander is Navy Meds and Readiness Training Command. So we have ex-meds. So a lot of the sailors, the specialty providers, they get taskers, meaning they need, X amount of this type of corpsman or this type of nurse or medical or professional to go support things in theater, and also supporting the hospital, the patient care delivery, and receiving casualties to provide unique care. So we're being affected already. So that's ramping up. I have sailors that were already deployed. They're now went to CENTCOM yesterday. So yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
for me, I'm at I'm at a squadron. So I guess the only way I can be effective is by timeline, right? My timeline can be sooner, than it was. So the training, if your timeline come up sooner, that means the training and preparation and all that stuff is now going to be sooner, right? My team just came off deployment not too long ago. So now if that timeline changes for us, everything changes. And another thing on what the pilots and things like that and what they do already, man, it's one of those things where they get a lot more briefs now already. They go into these briefs that being talked about already. You got to be read in and a whole lot going on that I can't go to. But they already getting briefs and stuff, and already I know, and we all know when that stuff start happening in briefs and stuff, and then you start talking about who's next and who's this and who's that. So that can change for us real quickly. Even the training we talking about now, even the training that they doing, so you can start seeing things start happening differently. And I don't know where it's going, but most definitely we can be on the block to maybe get out there a little bit earlier than normal anyway.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, and for me, just coming from boot camp, it's the new recruits that are coming in every Monday. They're a lot more focused now because they've heard the news, and a lot of the recruits that are at boot camp haven't heard it because we don't. They don't have cell phones and that kind of information, and we don't typically tell them what's going on in the world just because we want them to focus on graduating. But the ones that are coming in are lightning focused on, hey, this things are real now, and 13 weeks from now, who knows what the world picture is going to be like, and if it's just distance bombing or if there's something more, especially on the Marine Corps side. And then heading to one of the bases here in San Diego next, my job is just going to be support for whatever the families that are deployed need, and coordinating with the MFLACs and the community counseling and any CAICO calls that may have to be made. It's kind of for my end, it's more of that support. And I think we'll see an increase in most people will probably shift from going to see the MFLAC to see the chaplain, because a chaplain with combat experience is a more trusted person to go to in an environment like this instead of a peacetime when they can go see anybody. And they're going to want to seek out someone that understands the nature of combat and what that can do to individuals. So I expect to see, we'll be busier with the counseling side, and hopefully, things calm back down pretty quickly, and we don't have to worry about, major combat operations where we're deploying, tens of thousands of people into the region that more than are already there.
Yeah, you made a good point.
I mean, go ahead, Damo.
You just made a good point about the boot camp, the sellers coming in and they got a different buy-in right now because we're in a conflict. So they seeing things a little different than maybe the group of sellers that were coming in last year when we were hey, we're going to give you 20,000, 100,000. This is a group of sellers that's seeing oh, no, this is what could happen if you're in the military. That was all I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm with the same thing. I want to talk about the sailor piece too, man. And some of I think the young sailors, man, more man, this ain't what I signed up for. So these conversations, have to be had, right? And when I say signed up for it, they know, if the commander in chief say do X, Y, and Z, that's what we got to do. They kind of know that part, right? But most of the time it's been peacetime, right? So now I think the conversation has to be had and talk to these sailors and explain really what's going on. So for leadership and things like that, man, I think, more information is better, than no information at all. So I just think conversation needs to be had.
Yeah, I try my best to talk about war and combat every chance I can with sellers. I've never been in combat, but that's essentially what we what our organization. It's a combat organization, right? It's not a, electricians, like, yes, we are firefighters or whatever, but this is a combat organization. That's what we kind of do. I try my best to. Like when I'm like, when I'm like, hey, why'd you join? I joined because of college. I joined to get away from home. I joined to, and I was like, did you join a fight and potentially die or kill for your country? I was like, yeah, I did, Master Chief, I did. I was like, but I try to do that as much as I can, man.
Yeah.
I want Aaron to kind of touch on like day of and like how news hit us. But I'm gonna go there first. So one of the reasons why we didn't pod last week was because Friday was my wife's birthday, and I was trying to celebrate her birthday weekend, and like, just, hey, let's take some time off. So Saturday morning, I went out so we did some stuff Friday, and I knew we were gonna do some stuff Saturday, but Saturday morning I had to go get like some stuff. Like I wanted to get some extra stuff for her. And I start getting text messages like, yo, I know everybody's read into what's going on and everybody knows what's going on. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on at all, So it's like in, Iran, and I'm like, no. So then I pulled up the phone and I kind of saw what was going on. And this conversation was about base security, right? Just like what we were going to do or what we were not going to do about base security and just understanding installation type stuff. And I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on? So then I come home, I tell my wife, and she's down tracking. My brother texts me, civilian. He texts me from his point of view type stuff. And, by that time, I think Bahrain had already taken a hit in the towers. So by the time I got my brother text, I'm fully connected to like what we got going on, like as Navy sailors. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, no, I've been there before. I've seen that place. I'm totally kind of, and get like it's over. All the other, like, well, the war that I was engulfed in was T.I. versus 50 Cent. Right? That was what, like, everything was T.I. versus 50 Cent. Like, T.I. whole family versus 50 Cent. Right? They was at war. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Then this happened and kind of shut down all of that thinking and talking. And Aaron, like, what, like, how did it hit you?
For me, I saw the news, and then when I got to work the next day, I started seeing all these taskers requesting, hey, be on standby. We need 15 people with this. I'm like, okay, this is like more than the norm. And then I saw, all right, this got hit. And then I'm in a signal chat with some other CMCs, and they're stationed in Bahrain. They're like, yeah, we're sheltered in place. I'm like, okay. And then I started getting messages from people who are stationed in Bahrain. I'm like, okay, this is real. So that's how it hit me. First, the demand signal at work, and then just people who are in theater or stationed out there just saying, hey, we are sheltered in place. It's live. So that was my first 48, so to speak.
Yeah, and I guess for the Cali folks, you woke up to the news more so, right? If I'm correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, man, it was like saying kind of like yours, Dumbo, was base security first, like base stuff. And then they talked about, social media, stuff start coming on the thing. Don't do this, don't do that or whatever. And then, like Aaron said, getting text messages, man. Like I had one young lady be our neighbor. She was our neighbor in San Diego when I was in Temecula. And she was there a week. She left a week prior to one of those towers, man. She said, I was staying right there. So it was kind of crazy, man. The whole thing, man. But Bahrain, man, we all, if you was deployed, right, you probably some type of way went through there or was visit there or whatever the case may be, man. So it probably won't look the same no more, man. Like
Sandbox is gone.
Yeah. So
things are dramatically different. The landscape is different.
Yeah. So that's just crazy right there, just thinking about that, man. Like all the deployments and everybody who done went through there, your old school, even your new school, we all went there and we all seen it. And now that whole place is gone, right? So that's hard right there, man, for a lot of people that went through there.
Yeah.
I think Bahrain, like you said, is the common touch point for a lot of people in the Navy because even if you never saw combat, you probably went through there. Like I did a combat deployment in the Marines, but I actually flew through Bahrain Easter weekend. I think it was 2014, 2015 to go visit some ships in the Gulf. And so I know there, I've got friends that are stationed out there. You text to check on them, make sure they're okay, or hear from somebody that knows they're okay, just to have that touch point. But I think most people that have been in for the last 10 or 15 years have gone through Bahrain at some point, because both East Coast and West Coast deployers end up going through there, especially the air wings and the strike group.
Yeah, and that tower is like easily distinguishable. Like it's like soon as I saw it, I'm like, that. Yeah, I've been out there, and I just been out there on a deployment on Liberty, But we had like so many sailors been stationed out there. Your boy Caswell was out there. One of my boys was out there a while ago. So it's just an intimate connection with just that place, that area. And like Aaron said, it's a different place now. You know what I mean? And I heard all types of crazy, I heard people saying some people was like underground. I heard people saying people sheltered in place, just different, just different things. And I know we got some people now like kind of coming to our commands or safe havening like at different places so they could like serve their tours and, do their jobs in different places. Some of my old guardsmen they said they were like 20, 40 feet away from, where a place got hit. And, it's just a lot going on right now, man. The last toll I got for deaths, and I could be off if somebody got a more recent one than me, it was like 6 dead and 18 injured. Has that changed
6 confirmed, yet? Or? 6 confirmed. Last report I saw, I think 4 missing. But yeah, we have 6 confirmed losses of service members, and a couple are reported missing.
Yeah, and they are like, and we could do this early, but they are heroes of the week. They are heroes of the week. This is what this is what we sign up for. There's another side of that, another side of what we sign up for. And bless their families and all, prayers and blessings to them. That's the great sacrifice.
Yeah. Condolences to the families, man. Like that's hardcore, man. You're going over there, expecting the expectations. You as a service member and as your family member, you go over there, you do your thing, and you come home. And how hardcore that can be, man. You get that phone call, your loved one is not coming home, right? That is something that I have not experienced, but it's something, man, I can feel it like deep in my soul if somebody, knocked on the door. I had this lady that we was doing some training, and she talked about her experience with like her I think her husband I think it was a helo crashed, and they was looking for him, and she didn't know. Like she was like, oh well, if it was my husband, I'm sure they would have told me by now, because she just saw it on TV. That she just saw it on TV, and maybe like 4 hours later, man, she got that knock on the door, man, and her story was so powerful, man, and it make you like really, really like think about like, and what we out here doing, it's tough, man.
Yeah. It's it's a full scale process, right? Like you got CAICOs, right? Involved. Chaplains are involved in these processes. Fleet and family, they stand up whole teams when these conflicts get like super thick, right? And everybody, they are all heroes. We gotta highlight everybody that's doing the job when it's time to do it. And we build up, like we might not know how to evacuate people from a building when we lose electricity, right? But we've trained and we've built up a lot of like protocols and things for this type of activity. And I want to highlight Admiral Brad Cooper, who appears to be the example of exactly what I'm saying, right? He's composed. I think the last update I saw from CENTCOM was like on the 2nd, but they were doing daily updates from the 28th through the 2nd. He was updating people and just he ain't messing around. They really not messing. They said like on the last update I saw, he said like 2,000.
2,000, yeah.
2,000 like confirmed hits, like things that we blew up, like 2,000 different things, and we launched about over 2,000, ammunitions and things of that nature. So I saw a ship sink. I heard the drone carrier was sunk. So Admiral Brad Cooper is not messing around.
Well, if you to inject some humor, right? If you do a search on Admiral Cooper and you look at his biopic and you look at his resume, it goes like from the bottom of his sternum to the top of his shoulder. And those aren't like medals and awards for basket weaving or something. That's an actual resume of experience. The man is not where he's at by accident. So, for the uninitiated, Admiral Cooper, his ribbon rack is going to the top of his back. Bro. His ribbon rack is going to the top of his back. And then if you look at his face, in the picture, it's kind of like, I ain't seen all of it, but I didn't see him. His picture is just kind of like, it's like that emoji, the blank, you just like, just, Yeah. I do want to say one thing, Donald.
Did you see his ribbon rack? What's up?
Yeah. I saw his ribbon rack.
What you thought about
crazy. It's crazy. Crazy. Actually, man, when I saw his ribbon rack, and I was looking at, one of the daily briefs and things like that, I saw his ribbon rack, man. It made me Google him maybe more just by seeing this ribbon rack, man. But that's what he do. I mean, you guys looked at his like bio and stuff, man. Like he was born in this, man. Like his dad was like Army, like man, he was born in for real, man. Like he was, bro, like he was destined, man. It's almost like he was destined, right? Like, but yeah, man, like.
That's like a special order, man. Like a 16 racker. Like that's a special order.
Hey, Admiral, what's up with your editor? Please don't. I'm not updating this again. Please don't.
Yeah.
The rack alone probably costs like
just give me a handshake. Hey man, thank you. I'll transfer now. Please look at your editor. Please don't.
Yeah.
He got like every ribbon.
Bro, that's $1,000. That's $1,000 rip. That's $1,000 thing right there. Every time he changed something, bro, it's $1,000.
He be on that, the little app at the exchange. He be on that for like 45 minutes, like just picking his, like his custom made, man. That was crazy. And if you got that many, because it was a debate recently online about like, do you just do top 3 or do you do, all of them? And some people think it's like smug to do top 3. Some people think it's smug to do all of them. When you got 75 of them, you wear them. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my thoughts on that. But hey, shout out to him, man. He is kicking ass over there.
Well, I haven't had a chance to meet him, but I'm friends with somebody who was his chaplain when he was a 1-star, and they say nothing but great things about him. The reputation I hear, about him is amazing. And did you guys see the letter or the memo he sent out last Saturday to CENTCOM?
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. One page of just like, this is what we're here for, and we're gonna go for it. He just said, I've got it in front of me. It said, my guidance is simple: be relentlessly lethal, take care of your teammates, and steady your resolve.
Mm.
But I mean, he expanded a little bit on that, but it was just this one page of just absolute, where you've trained for this, you're ready, let's go do this, and I'm with you. And I think you were talking about like he was bred for this. It's just the right man at the right place at the right time.
Master Chief Compton too, Lateef Compton. I've heard lots of great things about him. He's also a very stable presence, as expected from the senior listed CMC side of everything.
Boy, Dummer, you got me counting these ribbons, bro. I'm looking at it right now, man. Golly.
Yeah. Have y'all seen the chairman of Joint Chief Staff, General King, his comments after we lost our service members? He really met the moment. A lot of people resolved. I know some people, kind of worried about he wasn't active, and then he had to come back active to be in a position. And it hasn't been a year yet since he's been back, and he's meeting the moment too, because he wasn't just like out for like 6 months. He was out for a couple of years, and now he's back into it. So I think that's helped for him as well.
One of the things I mentioned earlier, man, was like, the families and stuff like that, man. I think that communication, man, with the family members during this time is also very important, man. From a leadership standpoint, from the great job, I'm assuming, I know that the ombudsman's out there doing right now, right? Those jobs that's that liaison, that's the talking piece. And when I was on the carrier, that job of ombudsman, having that direct phone line to the CMC when I was on there anyway, was important, and it was ringing almost every day. Now, with that being said, with this going on, the communication matters even more, because the ombudsman getting a lot of phone calls right now about like what's going on, things that they probably can't talk about and things like that. So I wanted to throw that out because that communication matters. And also a shout out to I want to say this to my squadron, because I don't have an ombudsman. You know how important that is right now? How many times I done talked about it to my team that's listening? I need an ombudsman, man. You know what I mean? I need an ombudsman, man, because it's very important for every command to have one. And also, Dumbo, like preparing sailors, man, mentally and emotionally, right? Preparing them, having these talks, all that stuff, man. And then all the concerns, man, like how we are addressing them, how we are talking about them, because everybody's about to have some concerns about what's going on. So the communication piece, I can't express it enough for leaders to get out in front of this and talk about the things that's going on. And I look at it like this: if it's online, it's on the news, you could talk about it, man. But just have those conversations, man, with sailors.
Yeah. My CO did the whole, like, he did like what does this mean? It was like, what does this mean? What does this mean for the Navy? What does this mean for the command? What does this mean for you? He did that. I thought that was pretty good. We talked about him talking about it, but I didn't know what his approach was going to be. But I thought he did a really good job talking about it. I want to ask y'all though about the public trust aspect of all this, right? And what's y'all's opinion on public trust right now? Starting with Charles.
Oh, I think the public still trusts the military in general, and to go back to your point where you were talking about how to communicate with the command, I think you also have to explain as a CO or, as a chaplain, I'll do it one-on-one, is what your individual role or the command's individual role in the big picture is. Because a lot of times, the people that join the military to know that, hey, I'm going to go fight at some point, or that may happen, and things light off somewhere else, they get a little upset that they're not part of it. And it's one of those things where you've got to kind of explain, hey, like, you're part of a bigger machine, and like, you may not be on the pointy end of the spear right now, but at any moment you can be. You could point to the people that are in Bahrain or, in Qatar, places where we have people stationed that are getting attacked, and just say, hey, like, at any moment you could be part of that. So you've got to be ready. But just to tell everybody, you have a specific role in this whole operation, even if you're stateside, even if it's supporting, a logistics train or, in my case, getting recruits ready to maybe go where they need to go. And so I think that's part of it. And by letting everybody know what their role in it is, it helps the public trust, because if a junior sailor, junior Marine is able to say, well, this is my piece in the military, then they can explain to their neighbors what their role is. And it helps bridge that civil military gap that there is one, in society now. And I think it's getting wider. I've got all kinds of ideas of how to bring it back, but that might not be time for this, this podcast and what we're talking about now. But I think what we can do as leaders is explain why we're doing what we're doing as a command, how it fits into the bigger picture. Necessarily not you have to be out there in combat to have a role in the operation. And then it'll help with that public trust and that civil military gap that we kind of know is going on in the world.
Yeah, I guess my other question then would be like, is social media a real place? Because social media is where you look on social media, man, and people go crazy on there.
So social media is a real place in pockets, depending on who's posting and who's responding. The algorithm, you can form whatever universe you want. But if you take a real concentrated effort to curate your FYP, you're able to actually be informed through social media as intended. But that takes a lot to you really got to be vigilant on that. And most of us, aren't able to do that. I wanted to go back to the last question, though, Damo, about the public trust.
Yeah.
The public, from my opinion, the public still trust those of us in uniform.
Yes.
And I think they're more concerned just about our well-being and us being able to execute our orders and coming back. They don't have a trust, or they are not pleased with the response and the way that a lot of elected officials are comporting themselves. The public trust is high in the military, but I think it's more on, hey, they're doing the hard task. The reason why only 1% of the population or 3% of the population enlist or commissions in the military, but they're not pleased with some elected officials. When I took my kids back to college, my daughter, she's always asking me questions, and I could just hear all of the questions and opinions from the young people from the campuses through my college age children. So, but yeah, they trust us, but the people who are ultimately in charge of our safety, they got questions.
Yeah. Hey, for me, Domo, opinions, man. People have opinions about everything from a public standpoint. It's okay. Right. But I would say this, though, war and things like that, man, they're going to be big, big, big headlines, right? Negativity, positive or whatever. But what I would say for the public or anybody is like, hey, don't forget it's service members behind those headlines, right? With uncertainty and things like that that's going on. Just always keep that in mind when we out there and we talking about it. Because you're right. So on social media, it could be crazy. It could be in a, like Aaron said, it could be in a pocket that makes you go somewhere else, make you change what you're looking at. It's that deep. But from a public standpoint, I do agree with everybody, man. I think the trust is still there, right? From a military standpoint. But the headlines, man, like sometimes those headlines don't even be facts. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we have to be able, some of them anyway, you have to be able to look between some of that stuff too and be like, okay, this is real, this is not.
I think
we just in a weird time where even news like sources are not sources of news. You know what I mean? Like it's like they just doing their own agenda And the other thing I was going to say was I would like to warn people. I was talking to my mom about this. We got a family member and she was telling me about like what she sees on his Facebook, right? And I was telling her that like I see his Facebook probably not as much as her, but almost as much as her. And I see something completely different on his Facebook, right? And I was telling her like that's the way that algorithm is now. Like you're seeing, and a lot of people don't know or think about this like that much, right? If I'm saying like, yo, like when I open my phone, all I see is debates about like sinners and one battle after another. Like if some of y'all don't ever see these debates when y'all open your phone, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not getting fed into your algorithm, right? We are now living in a time that like the social media companies and all of that, they're feeding us what we receive the most. And that's a little bit of a rebuttal to something you were saying earlier, Aaron, but I don't want to like dig into that debate right now. But what like
Yeah, I mean, we are users. So you talk about the Matrix, you know, the people that own these platforms. You think you have some control in curating what you're seeing, but ultimately the people that own it are still able to push whatever ultimate narratives they want on you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the big points I was making was like anything that happens, and I don't want to get too deep politically, right? At all. But anything that happens politically is going to be a wide range of people that disagree with it. It's also going to be a wide range of people that do agree with it. However, some of these things are not seen by everybody because the algorithm don't permit it.
They don't curate that.
Yeah, it's just not curated. I want to close Epic Fury a little bit and just say like thoughts and prayers for, you know, all parties involved, which is all of us and all of our families and all of those things. And we, like I said, we'll continue to talk about this and continue to put it at the forefront of our conversations, right? Now I want to talk about sugar and rice.
There's two things I want to say for the conversation. All right, about the clothes, right? For those of us in uniform, right? This is where the apolitical nature of the profession we have to. You cannot get yourself in trouble. The people with DD-214s, they're the ones who get to have opinions. So you're active, man. Look, your main focus is your profession and your well-being of you and the people that are in your charge, up, down, and across. The second thing is with the veteran community. They have a very large influence on the active community, and they have red, blue, and purple opinions. So if you follow or you listen to some people, veterans or people that are recently retired, that you're still your mentors, if you're still serving, you have to be mindful and form your own opinions. There's my opinion, you can't be swayed. So just be mindful of that, right? You know?
Yeah. I mean, if somebody want to crash, they gonna crash, bro. Like if somebody want to jump out there, they gonna do it, bro. Like that's where we at.
But from this guy right here, I'm just saying, and y'all know I'm very opinionated, right? I'm knowing, well, you know what? I'm gonna shut the hell up, and I will be judicious in choosing a hill I'll die on if I want to die on a hill for some opinion or take a stand on something. My stand right now is making sure that my people are prepared emotionally, physically, spiritually to go, and the families are as well.
So spiritually, right? There we go, right? You created the bridge for me. So spiritually, that's my bridge. I got a chaplain question. Last year was the first year in a while that I believe to have seen, well, for me, yes, like with the amount of like energy and everything that chaplains were embraced a little bit more than before. Am I wrong about that, Aaron? Like we created a whole...
I haven't noticed as much.
What'd you say?
I didn't notice as much. I wasn't keyed in on it.
Yeah. You know how like we do like signings for like Sapper Awareness Month and
like the core.
Yeah, the chaplain corps got its own proclamation.
Yeah, they pounding the pavement. Yeah.
Yeah. So and am I off, Charles?
No, I think you're right. It's
Yeah.
when I first came in as a submarine officer, in my first 3.5 years on a submarine, I saw 2 chaplains in 3.5 years on the submarine. One was to see us off for deployment, and the other had come down for something else. Both great guys, but I think over time, as we've gotten more chaplains into more commands, and more of the Navy is growing up with a chaplain nearby, they've learned what a chaplain can do. That we're obviously there for religious reasons. There's a title, there's a Title 10 responsibility to provide religious services, but we do so much more. And it started a couple of years ago when we started advertising the confidentiality piece. You can go and talk to your chaplain about anything, and they can't breathe a word of it unless the sailor coming to talk to me says, yes, you can talk about this. And I tell all of the Marines and sailors I meet, you can have committed murder or some kind of horrific crime and tell me about it, and I can't testify against you. So once we let everybody know that you can come to me as a first resource, you started to see a lot more use of the chaplains, and getting all the chaplains onto as many destroyers as possible really helped shape that, because now the surface community is going to grow up with chaplains. The aviation community already kind of is, because we've had wing chaplains. The submarine force, it's going to be hard to grow a career with a chaplain by your side all the time, just because of the nature of the limited space. I think we've done a really good job showing the breadth of what a chaplain can do. And we also have really, I think Aaron was saying, pounding the pavement. We're pushing chaplains out to what we call deck plate. Just get out there with the sailors, the Marines, show them you're normal. One of the things that started in chaplain school a couple of years ago was they said one of the rules of being a chaplain is just don't be weird. And just be normal. Talk to sailors as if they're normal people, and you're a normal person. And the more personable and relatable you are, the better results you're going to see with sailors and Marines. I'll tell you, 90% of the conversations I have are basketball, pop culture, all those things to set the stage so that when there's a crisis, that service member can come to me and know that I'm a safe space, that I understand where they come from. I know where they live. I know what they like. I know their hobbies, so that we can connect and then get into the spiritual stuff to show them how to navigate whatever crisis they're in. I'm glad you guys have noticed it too, because I know the chaplain corps has been working hard to change that perception over the last 5 to 10 years.
But you all and then the RPs is like, sorry, go, bro.
I was just going to say, January is Spiritual Awareness Month. And that was the point. It was like, it wasn't really discussed that much to me in the past, but it felt a lot more heavily discussed recently, right? And it might have to do with the administration that we have in office right now, and the Secretary of War and things like that. But that was the only point I was going to make, was that this Spiritual Awareness Month hit a little heavier than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Also, just from a chaplain standpoint, man, my chaplain pretty much just showed up. He showed up in my door and say, "Hey, CMC, hey, I just want to walk around." Right? I have to walk around and talk to sailors. And he's out and about. He don't need nobody with him. Nothing. He just out and about talking to sailors, having a good time, man. Having a good time. He ain't trying to stop work. He ain't trying to stop nothing. He just trying to go up there and have some great conversations. Come up, talk to me, and talk to the triad, man. It was a good time, man. Chaplains are out there, man. In aviation anyway, chaplains are out there.
Yeah. I was going to say, Donald, you said as far as them ramping up, I remember just like I said, leaving Japan in 2020, and they're just saying how it can't all just be DRCs and MFLACs. Like, do not minimize the chaplain part of that team. And then for some reason, people, when they meet chaplains or meet RPs, they think like it's going to be someone who's like really like vanilla, just, nah, man. Like, two of my friends, RPs, matter of fact, the CMCs now, right? They real. The one chaplain, we have a couple chaplain at Walter Reed, and one guy, he's like the loudest Lions fan ever. He's having a hard time. He came in and was like, "What's up, chaps?" He's like, "Man, these damn Lions, man." I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "Man, Campbell better get them right." So this is real conversations, So they're not just sitting there, throwing scriptures or thumping the Quran at you. No, they're there to really build relations with you, like what Damien was saying. Real convos, deck plate, kneecap conversation.
Yeah, Damo, you had mentioned the spiritual fitness month or spiritual awareness months that are going on. That's the first time that it happened, and I think it was across all of CNIC for January. The Marine Corps had started doing those in late 2024. We did ours at boot camp at MCRD in February, and I think everything's going to kind of probably align to that January every year going forward across the Marines and the Navy to have one concerted effort. And for us, we had a proclamation signing, a breakfast early, like in the first week. We did a motivational run, like a physical activity halfway through. And then we had a barbecue and a guest speaker at the end. So, they were chaplain sponsored, not necessarily chaplain led, and let the commanders really talk about how spirituality lets them do their job better. And I think that's a connection that when I first joined the Chaplain Corps in 2010 wasn't as solid. And I think over the last 10 to 15 years, the Chaplain Corps has done a great job, like Aaron said, just to tell chaplains to get out there and talk to people about their lives. Like, you've got to meet them where they are. It's a thing that, Aaron, you probably hear this a lot more because you're at Walter Reed and they do clinical pastoral education there. That's a basis of that program, that CPE program, is to meet the individual where they are. And it could be like having a conversation about NFL, or it could be where they grew up. And so having all those different connections and listening and having a larger life experience to connect as much as you can is going to make you a better chaplain, and will connect when, like we were talking about previously with war, if they trust me with a conversation about the Lions, or with you guys talking about the abomination of putting salt in grits, I heard that one 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
By having those conversations, you're going to be more comfortable to come to the chaplain to talk about the really heavy life stuff that you're going through.
Yeah.
Do you put sugar in your grits, Chaps?
No, I'm from North Carolina and South Carolina.
God, you're not weird. All right. See, chaplains aren't weird. See,
an abomination, and he's a chaplain, and so it means heavier to me when I hear abomination from Chaps.
Your soul is gone. You put sugar in your grits, man.
It's mine was rice, but it's a conversation about the connect, and I can't quote it, but it's a conversation about the connection between suicide and like people that don't have like a spiritual core or something. Do you know what I'm talking about at all, Chaps?
So we do an annual training every year called the Professional Development Training Course. And it was 2 or 3 years ago, we had some PhDs and researchers about suicide come in, and they said that if you are connected to a faith community, a practicing faith community, your chance of suicide is lowered by like 70%.
Mm.
And that's not just Christianity. That's any kind of faith-based community. And even if it's just a community, not faith-based, you're still it's a protective factor by about 50 or 55%. So just going and joining a pickleball league or going to the jiu-jitsu gym, whatever gets you in contact with like-minded people is going to be such a protective factor for suicide that it should be encouraged no matter what. And that's what I tell all the Marines and sailors I work with. I don't care what your faith is. I just want you to have faith in something bigger than yourself. And the Marine Corps changed their definition of spiritual fitness to 5 words, which I think is brilliant and hopefully will take root throughout the Marine Corps and also the Navy, is inner strength from higher purpose. If you've got something that is higher than yourself and you're putting your faith in that, you're going to have a strength that can get you through anything. Mm-hmm. And that's, it doesn't have to necessarily be Christianity or Islam or Judaism or Hinduism or Buddhism. I tell everybody it could be the core values: honor, courage, commitment. If that's your North Star and you're putting your faith in that concept, you're going to be stronger inside, and you're going to be able to probably get through anything the Navy throws at you.
Yeah. So I'm looking for your thoughts on something, and I haven't fully kind of processed my thought, but where I'm at now, we get a lot of the sellers between like 18 and 22, right? Ain't even been in that first ship fresh out of high school. And we also have, compared to anywhere else I've been, we got a high number of SRBs, right? A very high number of SRBs. One of the things that I notice is when I think about the Navy in 2012 or the Navy in 2009 or pre-COVID or however you want to place it, it was a lot like sports leagues and like captain's cups, and like these things were like robust though. Like people were going to these things. It felt good to be there and stuff like that. When I look at now, I don't see it as much. I know some people do. We had somebody on here that was like, on my base, it's different, but I don't see it as much. What I see is, my sellers, they come to work. The job is difficult because they go to funerals all day. It's just a difficult job. Then they go home to their barracks rooms, and some of them jump on. I've asked people like, hey, what'd you do for the New Year? It's like, nothing. I didn't do anything. Like, did you FaceTime your family? Yeah, I FaceTime my family for a little bit, but outside of that, I didn't do anything. So they might jump on a game. They might, do something like that. I don't know if the game is, if like the video game, that community is comparable to the pickleball league or, something like that. And, I guess my question is like, how do we deal with those challenges, the challenges of today, post-COVID, and like people just not wanting to be around people as much as they used to want to be around people?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things.
No, you did.
That. It's the gaming community is a pretty tight community, and I wouldn't say stay away from that. I would tell your sailors like engage in that, because it might be a gateway into live community with people, because they realize I can interact with somebody virtually, so let me go try those skills in person. But I think there's another undercurrent going on that may start to change soon. And I noticed this back in 2010 when I switched over to become a chaplain, is there's just this inherent distrust of institution. And that's been going on for a while. And I talked to, when I was at MCRD, I would talk to the future drill instructors, the drill instructor students. I would talk to them twice during their course. And one of the things we always talked about was how to interact with the recruits nowadays. And the recruits and the young sailors that you're seeing at the Ceremonial Guard have grown up with very few institutions that have not let them down. And I think school was probably the last institution that was there that wasn't letting them down. And then COVID, they didn't get to go to school for a year and a half, some places 2 years. And so that institution was the last one where they kind of had trust in, and it's gone. And now they're having to adjust to putting their trust into an institution, because that's what we're asking at boot camp. We're asking them to kind of remove everything and then trust the Navy, or well, I'll just keep going to the Navy because this is a Navy-focused podcast. So when they're at Great Lakes, we're telling them, like, your job now is to trust the Navy because the Navy will take care of you. But it's hard to convince them of that. And so they get through boot camp, they go to their first command, and if the trust isn't immediately there, then they're probably not going to engage as much. And it also hasn't helped that a lot of the Navy bases have gone away from the Admiral's Cup events. The Marine Corps is still doing it, but I think that's changing, though. I think we're getting to where recruits are coming into the Navy saying, this is an institution that I can trust. Going back to what we talked about earlier with the public trust, it's still there. There's still love and trust and respect to people that serve. So they're coming in looking for that. And it's up to us as leaders to help them find that trust and give them the why to trust the Navy again. I hope that's answering kind of what we're getting at, Dalmo.
Yeah, it speaks to it a lot, honestly. Yeah, it speaks to it.
Can I ask a question? Do you think that, these generations, they didn't play outside as much with the devices, and then COVID exacerbated it? Do you think that added to their lack of wanting to be interpersonal and talking to people, and that made them even be more cynical?
I'm gonna shut up so Chad can talk, but I have some feedback on that. But
so I'll say it again. Like, they were using it's a tablet, smartphone generation, right? And then they weren't playing outside to begin with as much. And then with social media, and they see all this stuff, they're more cynical. Like my 12-year-old is a pessimist. And we monitor our screen time. So do you think those two factors kind of come to play?
You, chaps. I'm jumping in after you. I got some more that's after you, chaps.
You can jump in ahead of me if you want.
All right. My what you said was perfect, right? My fight against that is, dude, I'm at a point now where it don't seem generational. Like, it's people in their 60s with this type of behavior now. It seemed like it's just the world that we live in, bro, where we got more recluses than ever before. It's not like, man, you go to church. You could go to church and the old ladies with their hats on now and they phones. Like it's a different world, bro. So that's my only argument is I don't feel like it's just the 18 to 23 are nothing. It's 45-year-old people now. Like the whole social like connectivity like aspect of us period is totally different. That was my only kind of thought.
Yeah, so I think COVID is the reason why you see it in older generations. I think the younger generation, like what Aaron's talking about, the screen time is probably that driver. But there's indications that there's almost like a little rebellion against the screen time. I was just listening to a report. I can't remember where I heard it yesterday, that they were polling some of the kids in schools that have banned devices during school, or not completely banned, but it has to stay in your backpack. So if your parents call you, that if there's an emergency, they can get a hold of you. But the first 2 weeks, the kids hated it and it was hard for them. But after the first 2 weeks of the school year, they've got stronger friendships. They enjoy school more. And so there's ways that I think are being corrected on that younger generation. COVID was interesting because we told everybody to be scared of everybody for 2 years. And the Navy had the Frago that went out that basically said, if you go anywhere other than to go get groceries, we're gonna mask you. Everybody had to sign that page 13. But for a year and a half, we were confined to our homes with the threat of career punishment. So I think why you're seeing it, and maybe some of the older generation of the Navy. And I've even seen it in my own life. You know, I was in Maryland during COVID, and in that area, it was the lockdown was fairly tight, not the tightest of by any means. But my wife and I, we had friends and that we knew, the neighbors. We had great neighbors there, but we weren't really allowed to go and hang out with them like we had been. And then we moved to California. It took us a while to get back into the rhythm with our neighbors because of COVID, but also because of the Navy. I didn't know if we were going to move again. So you're kind of like, well, I don't know if I really want to like get close to everybody around me because I may leave soon. And I think in the Navy, you have that extra thing where if you're going to move every 2 to 3 years, you're not going to be as eager to get to know your neighbors. But we made a conscious decision to start to know our neighbors. We got great neighbors here in California, and we hang out with them a lot more now than we did, 2 years ago, because we consciously made the decision we're going to be a part of this community. And it's hard because COVID broke a lot of things, and it's hard as leaders to break through that. And that's something that I've been trying to do in my work as a chaplain across all of my commands over the last 4 years, is to really get people out of that COVID mentality that other people are dangerous. They're actually the protective factor for you to live a good life.
Yeah, hey, I think just to add on to that, I think it's about we just evolving too, though, right? Like me and my wife, we can sit on the couch and we got our phones up. You know what I'm saying? Like we right on side of each other, and we both got phones, right? The other side of that is like when we talk about things have changed, man. Like older people used to get the newspaper thrown in the yard, right? Go out there and read the newspaper. That don't happen as much now, right? So everything they do now is on the phone, right? So everybody is more of an evolving thing. Freaking bodies are being built. Now you can just go to the gym and work out. Man, people go and get bodies built in a lab now. You know what I mean? It's just times are freaking changing, right? On everything, not just social media. I'm talking about everything we used to do back in the day has changed on how we do it and how we get it done. So I just think, it is what it is, man. Like can't get away from it.
But everything is cyclic though. I've seen like the chapters talking about just how the military family, we PCS. I think, having raised, some military kids, Damon, you raised military kids, Dom, you raised one. I still think we are more traditional in how we raise our children, because once you get to a duty station, if you live on base housing, you're still seeing kids at playgrounds more frequently than a kid who's living off base, off post. I know my children are more resilient because they knew that, they moved to a new place, but they knew they had to get out there and meet some kids. You might be deploying and then, the neighbors next door, well, guess what? Their mom isn't deploying. And you kind of back each other up, So I think that that's better. And also seeing people are looking for physical media. They're doing more traditional things to kind of like buck against the screen time of the way things have been for the last, I guess, 15 years now with the screen.
Yeah, I think we saw like a resurgence of the mall, right? Like the mall was a thing for us in the 90s. And I think the mall is a thing again, right? Me and my wife went to the mall one day. Yeah, me and my wife, we recently went to Pentagon City.
Okay.
I heard that was the one not to go to in DC, but
man, they got a lot of malls closing down. I know back in New York, the Queens Coliseum, that closed down. And I was like, damn, it's crazy.
Yeah, the ones that's closing are closing, but the ones that's not closing, it was lively in there, man. It was people. And Philly used to go to the mall. You almost getting shoulder checked every 2 steps, and it seemed like it's like the Apple store is still full of people. So I think it depends on what you put in that place and how interactive whatever it is that you put in that place is. They had it was a slime store, right? Like a little store where you go do slime and Play-Doh and all that stuff. And the kids were in there, man. So, and now you have like mini museums in malls, and some malls have like roller coasters and, rafting and stuff like that. So I feel like some attention is being paid. Because, I mean, we watching the movie theaters kind of dwindle a little bit, right? But I feel like some attention
that hurts. That really hurts.
Yeah, man. Movie theater used to be the little, but now you start to see like boutique movie theaters coming back, right? It's a boutique movie theater in DC that, about 40 people. You're just watching TV on smaller screens, but it is a bar thing or whatever like that. So you start to see like more boutique things happening.
I got a tangent to go on about movies though, by the way.
Okay, not yet.
Yeah.
Right before you leave. So I want another thing that I really, because we got a chaplain on here, and I feel like this is an underutilized thing. And when I tried to use it, it was hard. Like I had a hard time booking something, figuring it out. It was difficult, and maybe it was just me. I'm a 3-button, take me there, Apple, Steve Jobs kind of guy, right? But
make it simple.
Credo, right? Like the retreats and all those things. I think it's good, and I think it's a lot, but I really think sellers don't. And I'm sure you got people that go, chaps. I'm sure people go, they show up, the ones that know. But I think it's underutilized. I don't know from your visual, does it look underutilized to you? That's question one. And then question two is just, can you talk a little bit about it so that people do know and understand what it is?
Yeah, so Credo is a program run by the chaplains that they provide marriage enrichment retreats, which are weekend retreats for the service member and their spouse. No child care is provided, but it's fully funded. The military pays for the hotel, the food, all of that. They don't pay for child care or transportation. They have marriage enrichment workshops, which are 1-day kind of classes that you can have on base. And they have family enrichment retreats where you can bring your kids. They do those out here in California. Usually that's at like Lake Arrowwood, and I think UCLA owns the property. And then Credo will also run the assist workshops and the safe talk workshops, typically, which are the suicide first responder type courses. And, if you're having trouble getting people to utilize it in the National Capital Region, that's a little different than my experiences. That what we deal with here in California is that there's not enough money to meet the demand. The biggest problem that I face, or the complaint that I hear from my Marines, is, hey chaps, we saw the flyer and we registered the day we saw it and it was already full.
That was my problem. Yeah, that was. I said I had some problem. That was my problem.
I knew Dumbo always got some smoke just waiting to be there it is, boom, when he come with it.
So it's a matter of, we somehow need to do more funding and grow that program, because it is consistently one of the highest, if not the highest rated program that Marine Corps Community Services puts on, when they do their evaluation of the programs. But then there's also, because on the Navy side, it's not through MWR, it's specifically through the chaplain corps. It's just such a highly rated program. My wife and I did it soon after we got married, and we loved it. But it's to schedule that and to get in to the budget cuts have really cut back the offerings. And so it's tough to ramp that back up. And hopefully as the budget grows, we can grow those again or offer more. I honestly could tell you, the Chaplain Corps could probably offer Credo at least twice a month and fill it up all the time. But we just don't have the staff at those offices nor the money to afford that, because it is expensive to pay for the hotel and the food for a weekend consistently. Yeah. But you're right. It's a great program, and those chaplains do amazing work on the weekend, helping the families work on their communication skills, reconnect with their partner, and really learn how to navigate military life as a team on the home front.
Yeah. Is San Diego like the most connected region in the country?
In terms of?
And I'm just talking about period. Like MWR, Fleet and Family.
So you're saying like as far as military concentration or fleet concentration areas is the most connected compared to all
when we were
of
talking to Chubbs, when we were talking to Chubbs, I'm like, man, like the MWR events, people don't come. Chubbs was like, nah, people come to the MWR events here. Now talking to Chaps, I'm like, Credo, I think, is under, like not over here in San Diego. I'm starting to think San Diego.
It's San Diego, though, man. Off station San Diego. It's hard to be pissed off at San Diego, man. Matter of fact, I wasn't pissed off at San Diego. That's why I had third kid in San Diego. San Diego is
I love San Diego. And the weather's good, right? It's never like a deciding factor. And if you want to leave the house or not, right? Yeah, no, we go.
Well, I think there's more active duty military in San Diego County than any other county in the U.S.
Okay.
Because when you think about it, you've got 32nd Street, MCAS Miramar, MCRD San Diego, Camp Pendleton, Point Loma, North Island, Naval Base, Coronado. Like all of those are all in San Diego County. And I'm sure.
So even off of, comparatively speaking, to Hampton Roads?
Oh, yeah. Because you've got like the Marine concentration area. You got two major Marine bases here.
Right.
You've got all the Navy bases. I think there's more here than anywhere else. And they do a really good job of connecting and saying, well, if Credo that the Marine Corps is sponsoring is full, call Navy Region Southwest office and they may have a event for you. And I think because the thing with Credo is, it's for any, like either Navy or Marine Corps, you can go to those events. It doesn't matter like where you're stationed as long as you're in that region. So, and also, talk about the Commanding Generals Cups and the Admirals Cups and the Captain's Cup. I mean, the weather here is so great that you don't really have to deal with, 3 foot of snow and schedule your events around the snow or the tornadoes or the thunderstorms.
Me and Dom have been catching it this year. Damon over there like, I ain't got them problems, man. Sorry for you.
Just cow poop, right? Just you smelling cow manure all day, right?
Yeah, it's okay, man. It's okay. Yeah, man.
Hey, Damon, Damo, I gotta cut out. I gotta head to a family function. I'll save my movie rant for another time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
You.
Man.
Oh, I'm gonna put it in the chat. You know that.
Have a good time, man. Have a good time.
I love y'all. Hey, sir, Chaps. Good talking to you.
That was great,
brother.
Yeah. So, my question for you is, what made you switch over to Chap?
So I got commissioned in '96. Went through the whole submarine pipeline. Did my JO tour on the Louisville. Had a wonderful time. Did about 3.5 years there. Then went and taught at Nuke School. And we were talking about community. I started to make friends in Charleston because they had moved to Charleston by that time. Made a bunch of friends there and got involved with a local church, volunteering there. Then did my department head tour on the USS Buffalo as a WEPS, combat systems guy. And while I was doing that tour, I looked around and everything I loved about the job was standing watch with my team, helping my sailors. And I could do that as a CO and an XO, but who really, what E4 is really going to go and ask the old man for advice or to help them out? And I knew that I could help sailors, and everything I loved about the job I was doing as a department head, it fit into being a chaplain. And so I started pursuing that. I got out, went IRR while I was in seminary, and then came back in as a chaplain. And I've loved it. I get to really help sailors and Marines navigate really hard decisions, really hard problems. And a lot of times just helping them realize that the situation isn't as dire as they think it is. And being that calming, steady presence. I'm probably more of a life coach than anything else to some of the sailors. And I've learned, it was interesting because as a submarine officer, I didn't really see the value of a chaplain until I was a department head. And we had a suicide attempt on board. And the chaplain came in, and what he did to help the crew get through that, I realized the value of the chaplain in navigating that situation. And I knew that I would have a lot of ability to make a similar impact, not just on one command as a commanding officer, but across dozens of command.
Yeah. And then, so you just coming from Great Lakes, right?
No, I'm at MCRD, San Diego.
So you were with the Marine recruits?
Yeah, with the Marine recruits right now.
Okay.
Well, for one more work day.
Okay, all right, and so that's a good. Okay, so with the Marine recruits, what are you seeing, like from these? Because I know, like I'm assuming you said you go talk to the drill instructors, but do you also see the recruits, like talk to them at all?
I do talk to the recruits, not as much as the individual training battalion chaplains, because I'm the regimental chaplain, but I do interact with the recruits. And what I see mostly from the recruits, and I assume it would be the same at Great Lakes, is they end up having some difficulty that they weren't expecting. It ends up being harder than they thought it would be. And they're just trying to get through that. And most of our job is to convince them this isn't the hardest, like this is the hardest thing you've ever done. I realize that. But you have this whole support network around you that's going to get you through this. And if you stick it out and get to the other side and you graduate, you're going to know you're going to be able to do anything life throws at you. And that's most of what our job is in dealing with the recruits, is just convincing them that they have everything inside of them and they have a support network around them that wants to get them, to graduation. And for a lot of them, it's the hardest thing they've ever done. And that's mostly what we're dealing with recruits is convincing them that they have what it takes to become a Marine or a sailor.
Yeah.
Hey, Chaps, quick question for you. Right now, do you think mental health is probably one of the biggest things we're facing right now in the Navy or in the military, period?
I think it is. And that's a tough question, because there's a debate even among the mental health providers that we talk to. Is it a mental health issue or is it a spiritual issue? And in terms of spiritual, in the big S spirituality, not necessarily faith specific. I mean, religion and faith is part of that spirituality. I think it's an interesting question. Mental health, there is some severe mental health issues that pop up, but typically in the military, those should be weeded out before they even show up to boot camp or OCS or wherever. And then I think it goes back to what we had just talked about. A lot of people will conflate a mental health issue with doing hard things or getting through doing hard stuff. And on the other side of what in this context, what a recruit thinks is a mental health crisis, we get them on the other side. They develop that resiliency and they realize that it wasn't their mind letting them down. It was just a matter of, I needed to have the fortitude to push through, and I'm good. And I think that's part of the challenge we face is how much stress do we put onto someone at what time. Like you want to give them a little bit of stress and relax, a little bit more stress, relax, a lot more stress, relax, to build that resiliency. And it's a matter of figuring out where we can apply that without doing too much that we break somebody that they think that they can't succeed. I hope that.
No, most definitely.
Yeah, that helped. And it actually, it kind of validated why it was a chaplain on that Warrior Toughness team too. Like what you just said made me think about that. Like, oh shit, this is why it was a chaplain on that Warrior Toughness team to kind of balance. Cause I'm like, all right, I get mental health, I get the SEAL, I get the chaplain, but just hearing you talk in real time just solidified that. Like, yeah, that you needed that. But now one of the things I want to talk, because we can't not talk about, and for the listeners, is you wrote a book, right? You authored a book.
I did.
Is it the only book you authored, or
it's the only book so far? I've got another one I'm working through, or that's done, that I'm trying to get published, and then I'm working on a few others.
Okay, and this book is called Presidential Seclusion: The Power of Camp David.
Correct.
Question one, and I know we did get a read ahead of it. I unfortunately didn't have a chance to read it. I was engulfed in Stephen King's It for the last.
I heard about
3
that.
months.
45 hours of
yeah. So I just, between that and Ceremonial Guard, I didn't have a chance to sit with it yet, but I do plan to. And my first question is, what inspired you to write this?
So I was serving as the chaplain at Camp David. I did 3.5 years there. Mm-hmm. And with any good command, you always going to get collateral duties. Mm-hmm. And my collateral duty as the chaplain was also being the historian of Camp David. Mm. And part of that was giving tours, walking historical tours to all the VIPs, all these, some of the most influential people in the world that would come through Camp David to visit. And as I'm giving these tours, just watching the sense of wonder and awe on the faces of these powerful people. I'm telling them a story that is impressing them. And I would relay this back to my wife, and she said, why don't you just write all this down and tell this story to the public, like what you can tell. Mm-hmm. And so I converted kind of that tour into a book format that you can read. And the thing is, on the tour, every tour I did was about an hour, so I couldn't include everything in the book on every tour. So this is kind of the mega tour, if you will, of Camp David and the history that it has played for the last 84 years. Because a lot of people don't realize it's a working Navy base, Naval Support Facility Thermont. And it becomes Camp David when the president lands to become the president's retreat.
Yeah, they riding around in them little mini golf carts. So I've been to Camp David a few times just with the job that I had. I was the NDW ADCO. So I would come to Camp David to inspect the DAPA program and the UPC program. And it's always I always get lost in the woods on the way there, right? It's just super fun. Always, like every time, right? Like nobody can help me because the phone service is done now. And I'm at some other place where it's cabins, and I'm like, yo, park ranger, like help me, put me back into like the direction I'm supposed to be in. Then I get to where I get, and it's security to get there. Not going to go too deep into that, but then I get in there and I'm riding around in some mini golf cart thing, and just going around and just different places, and it looks like a campsite in my opinion. It looked like cabins. I didn't get a chance to go inside the president's cabin. I heard it was like a white carpet in there, and but what I wanted to ask you was what years, before we get too deep into it, because I got a lot of questions about this. Thoughts. What years were you there?
I was there from February of 2018 to July of 2021.
Okay, so super recent.
Yeah.
Right? Super recent. And that was President Trump's first term, right? Am I
Trump 1.0 and then President Biden for 6 months.
Okay, yeah. And I was, so you were there. I think I started coming around there like right after, like almost right after you. So when I was I think I was there the day that they pulled the troops out of Afghanistan or something like that. Like, or the day after that, I think. Like, or like, so I was there shortly after, and that was during Biden's, at some point during President Biden's term. Who was your just a quick before we get too deep in it? Who was like the favorite person or your best experience as far as meeting somebody there?
Oh, see, I can't speak about that because a lot of the guests are they don't advertise that they go.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But I will tell you, I met a lot of wonderful people, and every visit was special because there's this thing called the Spirit of Camp David, and talk about it a little bit in the book, that Camp David changes the presidents and the people that are there, and the people that participate at Camp David change the spirit a little bit. It's just this, you've been up there. It's just, you go through the gate and you just immediately can't help but relax. Like it puts you at ease, and it's just such a wonderful place to get away from it all. And the presidents get to do that. And even the guests that come up, and NDW being associated with the chain of command, you get to come up to do the inspections and get to look around and see things, but you also get to feel just how the mountain and just everything about it works on you. And you're probably like, well, I don't want to go home. Like, it's kind of nice up here. I'd rather stay up here.
Yeah.
And to get to drive through a national park every day to get to work is it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the parks and all that stuff.
But I will tell you, like, not guest wise, but one of the coolest things that you get to do as the chaplain up there is you get to preach to the president. So your sermons are ready every week as if the president will come, because they can change their mind at any point and show up. But when the president does show up, it's a little intimidating at first, but when you get into the rhythm and you do it, you're like, man, I just got to preach to the president. So that's just such a cool thing to do.
Yeah, and I guess you get to see these politicians a little different than some of us get to see them, because you up close and personal a little bit.
Right. And I would tell everybody, and I've said it on other interviews, the president you see on TV and the president who they really aren't always the same person. Mm-hmm. And when you read in the book, I get in that a little bit, in that you realize just how much of a family man George H.W. Bush was. Mm-hmm. And he was able to really be that family man up at Camp David. Or Ronald Reagan, I think, is one of the more stark examples. This gregarious, great communicator, outgoing person. But at Camp David, he never really invited anybody up. It was just him and his wife, and very secluded and private in his personal life, which I never would have thought growing up, seeing Reagan on TV all the time. I never would have thought he was that private in person. And so what you see on TV and who they aren't necessarily always the same person.
Yeah. And it's funny because I don't know what I can and can't say about Camp David, but I do know that, I've heard, even some fun stories about, like, presidents that would come and, like, just not eat all the food, right? So, like, they get, like, a whole bunch of food, but the family don't eat all the food. So the food's left now for the sailors to enjoy, some good food. Stuff like that. Like, some cool stories.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I never had any leftover presidential food myself.
But I heard it was good. I heard it was good. So, but just what can you talk about it as, like, a function? And one of my old friends were there. Me and Damon's old friends, Jessica Reinhardt, was stationed there for a couple years. I think she either made senior chief there. I think she made senior chief there. But what can you talk about? Whatever you can talk about it, just as a function and just normal command, like when there's no visitors there.
Yeah, it's a normal command. It's a normal base, like everywhere else. You've got to upkeep the base. You've got to do your training. You've got to do everything that a normal base would have. One of the things that I'll bring up, because this is a Navy audience, is 99% of the jobs there you apply for. So if it's something you want to do, reach out. They I know that they have somebody that goes and recruits sailors to work there, and they will travel to fleet concentration areas throughout the year, do interviews. I don't think they come out as a nav admin. It might just be a local message to the base you're at. But if you're in San Diego or Jacksonville, Port Hueneme, Gulfport, Hampton Roads area, there's probably going to be somebody coming through giving an information session. So go and learn about it. I mean, there's CSs up there, there's RSs, there's all the CB rates. There's even some, I think there's ABFs, there's DCmen. I mean, there's so many different ratings up that get to go up there. Yeoman, PSs, it's just like, almost everybody has a chance to apply, and I say go for it. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's definitely worth it. If you get selected, you're gonna be making history each and every day you're up there, as well as walking in the footsteps of all this history that's come before you. And they only take the best of the best. Like the sailors that are up there are all top notch. I worked with just some amazing sailors and Marines up there that I would put against any other team that I've worked with in terms of dedication to the mission, their qualifications coming in. So if you're one of those amazing stellar sailors and you want to make a difference and have something that like you can see history made right in front of you, obviously just give it a shot and apply and do what you can to get up there, because all ranks go up there. We've got all the way from some of the CB rates that are right out of boot camp and A school to chiefs and senior chiefs supervising everything.
Yeah. What's the biggest pest up there, like animal wise? Can we talk about that?
Oh, I mean, you got squirrels and all of that stuff. Yeah. Occasionally you'll see some snakes.
Yeah, I heard the squirrels get into some things sometimes.
Yeah, the squirrels do. All the deer are outside the gate, so there's no deer inside. But yeah, the little like rabbits, you'll see those running around.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's some moles and other things that
moles
the groundskeepers are fighting all the time.
And the thing about the history at Camp David is, I learned a lot about, and I don't know what I could say and what I can't say, but I learned a lot about the history of Camp David, like when I was at the camp, right? Like just looking at pictures and things like that at the camp. And so what I knew about Camp David was that presidents would come and they would chill out, relax, and it's like a retreat place. But like major meetings happened at Camp David between presidents and other foreign dignitaries and things like that. Major decisions were made at Camp David as well. So definitely, man, when I left Camp David the first time, I felt like if any sailor or service member had a chance to visit, they should, right? It's just one of those places, and I'm happy that I had the opportunity to go there. So I'm very interested in some of the stories that's in your book, with chapter 1 being Shangri-La, and I believe that was a FDR thing.
It was. Shangri-La was the original name.
Yeah.
And he had named that after a place in a book called Lost Horizon. Mm-hmm. It was a very popular book. I tell everybody it was like the Harry Potter of like the 1930s. Everybody had read that book, and that term was coined in that book. And FDR loved the name and used it frequently throughout his presidency. And so he named Shangri-La Shangri-La. And there was an aircraft carrier named the USS Shangri-La because of it was built during the war, and FDR, we're going to name one the Shangri-La. And so it even has there's a Navy ship named after it as well.
Yeah. And now the whole process. So me and Damon, we talked about collaborating on a book. Maybe we'll do it, but we talked about it before. And there's a lot of people in the Navy that either have written books or want to write a book. And this looks pretty legit. Is it a hard, do you, and I got the digital copy. How many different variations do you got? Paperback, hardcover?
So there's no paperback yet. It's hardback and Kindle or ebook. So Nook, Kindle, all of those. You can order.
No audiobook version yet either.
Not yet. So what I've learned in the whole publishing world is that when you sign the contract with a publisher, they get the rights of the book. And so they get to choose how it's released. I've had a lot of people ask for an audiobook, but they haven't told me that they're going to do it yet. And I volunteered to read it if they ever make one.
Nice.
Yeah.
But, can you talk process with us a little bit? Just, I really want to know start, stop. But you want to write a book, and then what?
So for specifically for a history book like this is, I decided to write it, and then it's just a matter of doing a lot of research. I was digging through thousands of pieces of paper from presidential libraries. I probably checked out and read 100 memoirs of people that political or world leaders that had been up to Camp David to hear what they had to say. And a lot of it is just, thumbing through real quick to look to see, and I'm not reading the whole book, but I'm looking to see what their thoughts on Camp David were and how it affected them. And so that probably took, the bulk of the research took about 2 years. And I started writing a little bit in that. And then I had to figure out how I wanted to lay it out. And I decided each president would get a chapter. And then there's a couple other chapters in there that aren't necessarily related to a president. There's one about the White House Communication Agency. There's one about the Marines. And then there's one about the chapel. Obviously, I had to write about the chapel in his own special chapter. And then I went through that process, and there's a famous writer named Anne Lamott, and she had a book that she wrote called Bird by Bird. And in it, she said, you've just got to write that really ugly first draft. Use other words, but you just got to write that crappy first draft. And once you've got that out, then you can start to do the work of editing and make it better. And then after I probably went through 3 or 4 drafts of my own, and I started sending, then my wife got a hold of it and made it so much better.
Nice.
So much so that when we got it to the publisher, they came back the very few edits, like conceptual edits. Most of the edits we got had to do with balancing footnotes to make sure they were right, or some capitalization of commas and things like that. But in terms of like major organizational edits, we didn't have any because she did such a great job on getting it ready for the publisher. But once you got it ready or good enough, you actually send a proposal out, and you've just got to be ready for rejection in the publishing world.
Yeah.
And not just them saying no, but being ghosted and never hearing back from anybody. So I forget how many, I think I sent it out to probably 30 or 40 different people. I had some people interested, and then I had one publisher, Prometheus. They got back to me probably 2 months later and said, hey, we really love this and we want to publish it. And went from there. It was actually found out 2 days before my 50th birthday that they wanted the book.
Nice.
And so it was a great birthday present.
Oh yeah.
And then made you go with a publisher versus independent?
So because I still have a full-time job, I just didn't have the time to develop a cover, to hire a copy editor, to hire another editor to do all the publicity, which I did a lot of the publicity myself anyways. But all of the stuff that goes behind the scenes for publishing, when you self-publish, you're doing it on your own. And it's probably going to cost you the same amount as if you were to have you get more royalties, but you don't, and you have more control over the process. But if you're working full time, it's hard to do that at the same time and fit all that in. Like you guys see it as podcasters, like it's hard to schedule this every week and to do it as consistently as you can. So that's why I preferred to do traditional publishing instead of self-publishing. I wasn't against self-publishing. I'm not against it at all. I just, in my circumstances, it was just a better fit. And I'll try that again with most of my books, because if you traditionally publish, you send the book off and then you can focus on the next one.
Yeah.
Whereas if you self-publish, you're still really focused on the one that you've got full time until you feel like you're ready to focus on the next one. So this just allows me to, I guess, do more down the line.
Now, was that always in the plans for you as far as being an author, or did the bug bite you after this book and then it was like, hey, I'm gonna do another one and I'm gonna do another one?
The bug bit me during the book. I was having so much fun crafting the story and telling, the story other people had done in such a way that to make it compelling, that I was like, oh, I can do this. Mm-hmm. And so the bug bit me in the middle of the process, a little bit like running a marathon. Like you finish the first marathon and you're like, yeah, I've got this. And then you go to number 2 and you're like, man, this sucks. But I haven't hit that with the second or the other books I'm working on. It's the hard part now is just fitting it in with the job and the schedule, trying to find time to work on getting the next book out and do the research and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, and is it going to stay the historic, like the history, like genre, or are you looking at like a different books too?
So I'm mostly going to stay nonfiction. The next book that's ready that I'm sending out is a collection of my sermons from Camp David. Mm-hmm. So that'll be a different audience, obviously. But I think people, that was actually responded. That was actually kind of my response to a tweet. So President Trump went to my service and tweeted positively about it after the service. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people in the comments were basically saying, well, I bet he didn't even go, or, I bet the theology and the sermon he got was just this, unchristian stuff.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of reading the comments and then I got mad. like Michael Jordan in the Last Dance. I took it personally.
Yeah.
And so I compiled some of my, not all of them, but a year's worth of sermons just to answer those questions. And so that's the next book. And then there's a couple others I'm working on. One of them, is a family member that I want to do a book about, because he had a pretty distinguished career and was a ace in World War II. Mm-hmm. And then another ship that interests me, a U.S. ship that was in the World War II and the Korean War. So I'm doing a little research on that one as well to try to hopefully craft a good narrative to get out for those books. Mm-hmm. So I've got a pipeline. It's just a matter of finding the time to get through it.
Yeah. And then, so when did the history bug bite you?
I've been a history buff my entire life. I found it so much fun to read and to learn about different places and times. And this book kind of changed my take on history. I think you two may be the same. Is when you grew up, you thought history was names, dates, and places, because that's kind of what they teach you in school. Is like Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, and I learned that it's more about the people and the place and how that affects history. Mm-hmm. And I realized in this, like writing this book, I didn't realize it when I was at Camp David, but I realized just how all of the sailors up there are making history each and every day, and they don't even realize it. They're setting the stage, like Dama, like you said, for all these big decisions and events that occur at Camp David. It's the everyday work of these sailors that are setting the stage for the president to host and to make those big decisions on the mountain. And it completely changed the way I looked at history and how we're all making history all the time. And you may not think you're making history, and 20 years from now, you'll look back and go, oh, wait, like I was part of something bigger than myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I got this thought about speeches and how important speeches are. Right. And, the Gettysburg Address, or like any of these speeches that might have been like some ancillary moment in the life of somebody else, but it exploded into this historical moment because it was accompanied by a historical win or something like that, or a historical story. So now everything else is amplified, right? If Damon goes on to like save the world from the Kraken, it's going to be things, it's going to be sound bites from this podcast of like things that Damon said from episode 3. Like on episode 3 of Permission to Speak Freely, this is what he said, you know? So, and anytime you get in front of a group of people and you talk, you have that opportunity, you know what I mean, to cement yourself in history forever. You just might not know it yet. So the way, like, so I think that's akin to your thought about like history. Like it is happening every day.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about the Gettysburg Address, and a lot of people don't realize that Lincoln was the afterthought of that day.
Mm-hmm.
The person that spoke before him spoke for 2.5 hours and was considered one of the greatest orators of the day. And that was kind of the thing back in the mid 1800s, was somebody would go and just speak and show off how they could speak. And then Lincoln gets up there after this guy and speaks for 5 minutes?
Mm.
And no one remembers the famous speaker that they brought in, that the whole day was centered around. They remember what Lincoln said, at Gettysburg. And to, living up in Maryland, I don't know if you've been up there, but to go to Gettysburg and to stand like right where Lincoln said those words is, it's pretty humbling. But like you said, I don't think Lincoln thought it was the speech that was going to define, one of the speeches that would define his presidency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, Chaps, I got a question for you. Like, just seeing you and just talking with you, I can tell you love being a Chaps. We already hear you're a history guy. You're writing books about it. How does it feel for you doing all these things that you just love and like to do? Like, how does that feel? Like, and I'm bringing it up because like everybody's being, how you been in the Navy for 20 some years? I'm like, cause I like it, So you doing the stuff that you do, like, how does it feel like doing and you love it and you like it?
I've been lucky. I love being a submarine officer. I had great teams. I had great deployments. I still talk to the guys that I had served with on the Louisville and the Buffalo. It was being a chaplain, and we're all kind of like having it all merged together was really fun, in terms of being the chaplain and the historian at Camp David. I love helping people. And I also know, I think part of it is the joy is there that I know that I'm passing kind of the torch on to the next generation, because my time is essentially over. I've got a year and a half left before I hit my mandatory retirement due to being an officer for too long. And I'm okay with that, and I know that the next stage is coming, and I'm excited about that as well. But it is nice to, and that's why I've stayed so long. People ask me the same time, like, why'd you stay with it? Well, it's about the people I serve with and helping them and helping sailors become who they were meant to be and to flourish. And just watching that happen over time has been wonderful. And I still get I always look at the promotion messages, the list when they come out, and be like, oh yeah, I'm happy for her. I'm happy for him. And I track those almost religiously at work, checking the nav admins and the all navs to see the people that I've interacted with succeed. And I do my best to keep in touch and let people know, like, hey, congrats. I've been thinking of, glad you made it. And so I think if I wasn't so happy with the job and I didn't like what I was doing and the impact I was having, I would have gotten out a long time ago. Because I think after 20 years, the frustration of the bureaucracy just starts to wear on you. And I've seen it over the last year in myself. Like it wears you down after a while. And I know it's probably, I might have, I'm starting to think maybe I stayed a little too long because it's starting to wear me down a little more than I wanted it to. I'm not cynical, I'm not bitter, but I get frustrated a lot easier at the bureaucracy than, Ensign Ferguson did back in 96, 97.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you get the sugar coated oatmeal cookie, and it's great, Then you get it again. Okay, it's good, 30 years of the sugar coated oatmeal. Okay, it's the sugar coated oatmeal, which leads me to like one of like the questions that Damon had in our notes for like an episode if we didn't have a guest. But I think it's an interesting question, and it says, "Are we too soft or just more professional?" Right? And I thought it was a cool question. My answer is, I think we too soft, bro. I think we got, and I'm interested in what a chaplain would think, but I think we got, and I don't think it's everybody. Right? I'm speaking for myself a little bit. I think we got a little bit too self-aware of emotions and things like that, and it like kind of hurts our ability to like make people feel bad to do better, right? So I've recently just started doing that, right? And I think for us, like in a leadership level, well, for like me as a CMC, I think it happens a lot when you're talking to the leaders that's like right at the level, under the level you are, or whatever. So like, it probably happens more when you're talking to your chiefs than when you're talking to somebody else, right? Like you don't want to like hurt them, or you like, and it's some things they need to hear, right? So I've been kind of training myself to have the conversations that might sting, like, yo, this might, hey, it is what it is, like this is where, because at the end of the day, if we like-minded individuals and we got the same goals, which we all should have, is, we should have a shared goal. I want you to be the best. You know what I'm saying? I want you to be the best that you could be. And if this thing I have to tell you is going to hurt your feelings a little bit, but it's going to make you better, I look at it like this. Let me say, I would do that with my wife. I would say something to her that because I love her, that she might not receive when she first hear it, but she'll receive it later. And if I care about you, I'm going to say something that might sting a little bit. It's the people that I say stuff to that don't sting at all. In my opinion, it's like, I probably don't have a vested interest in your success. You know what I mean? And that don't happen a lot like at my command because I care about everybody there. But I do think in a way, am I answering a question you asked, Damon? Because or did I misinterpret it? Yeah. So I do think in a way, people, I don't think it's more professional for sure. I think just people just got a little softer. I'm not going to say too soft, but I think some problems in the days of old that the problems we have today, some of them they didn't have in the days of old because like let me give you an example. At my command, right? It's all about perfection and like doing things right. It's the U.S. Navy Ceremonial Guard, right? It's all about doing things precise, sharp, and right. And I'm talking about ceremonies and stuff. The command has a history of hazing, right? Like they used to haze people and people used to get these things right. And we got this Facebook page. And on Facebook, the old guardsmen, like the people that were here in the 70s and the 80s and all that, 50 years ago and all that stuff, they be like, hey, they don't look as good as we used to look. Yeah, but we also don't haze. I'm sure they would look 10 times sharper. So it's like, so for us, and it might sound crazy, but for us, it's like, how do we naturally get to that point that they were at in the 70s without the hazing and the harshness that, like they might have had? It's very easy to get there with the hazing, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And hazing is wrong, or you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't tie somebody up in a space or, hey, until you get this drill right. Imagine that. They were like, hey, until you get this drill right, we gonna tie you up every day. Man, you gonna be at home on the weekends practicing. I'm not getting tied up tomorrow. We can't do that no more. So it's more conversation based, it's more motivation based, it's more, and that's I hope I explained that point a little better.
Yeah.
I don't think we're too soft.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of those things. I agree with you. Like, hazing isn't going to accomplish anything. It's going to be more negative in the long run than actually just leading somebody to where they need to be. But I think you're also right that we need to have those honest conversations, and we need to be able to tell somebody, you've kind of reached your peak and it's okay. Like, not everybody's going to be Mick Pont.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's going to be a chief. I remember when I came in on my first sub, there was a guy that was going to retire as an E5, and that's all he wanted.
Yeah.
That was back when you could retire as an E5. And so he was an amazing reactor operator, and he knew that's all he wanted to do. He didn't want to be an LPO. He went to the level he wanted to, and he knew that was his limit. And he said, I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to do the best I can at this level until I hit my 20-year point, and then I'm out. And in this up or out model we have, I think we end up getting people that overstretch their ability a little bit.
I agree.
So that you do have to have some of these hard conversations. And, most sailors that come in, they want to do well. They want to succeed in everything they do. And there's going to be a sense of shame when they fail. And we have to, as a chaplain, I always tell sailors and Marines that are struggling, just because you failed at something doesn't mean you're a failure.
Mm.
You can fail at many things. I fail every day at something. I get yelled at. Well, before in the submarine force, I would get yelled at and do things wrong all the time. But that didn't mean I was a horrible officer. That didn't mean I didn't know what I was doing. I still have in my little, my I Love Me binder of all my awards, I still have the LOI that I got as a weapons officer.
Yeah.
Because we failed as a department due to me. It was my fault. And so I kept that. And whenever, officers get in trouble, I'm like, it's not the end. Like, look at what I got. This 2-page letter that said I was doing a horrible thing, but I still got promoted to lieutenant commander from that. If you look at my fit reps, it doesn't show that I failed in this one area. It shows I succeeded as a department head, but my CO gave me, that was enough to shame me into doing better.
Yeah, those LOIs.
Yeah, and I still have it. It's pristine.
Yeah.
And it's in, the same protective as all my other fit reps, because it's important. It balances it out. And, I was lucky to have I didn't have any screamers for the most part in the submarine force. And, when I became a chaplain, my first Marine unit, I had wonderful COs and XOs. And then I went to the surface force for the first time, and I was a submarine guy, and all I'd heard about the submarine force was they just stab you in the back, the SWOs, that they just stab you in the back, and, the SWO daggers and all of that, eat your young. And I had 9 ships as a Desron chaplain, and they were all amazing. And it completely reframed my thought about the surface force. And then I saw that good leadership is a characteristic across the Navy, for the most part, and everybody's trying. And no one's hazing. We're sitting people down and saying, hey, you didn't do good at this. Here's how we think you can do better. And I think part of it, what you said about being soft is we've also, I think maybe this is part of the do better segment. We're not good at letting people fail.
Mm.
Yeah. No,
and we're not good at letting people fail at the things that don't matter. Or the unimportant things, the minor things, to build that resiliency so that when the things matter, like what we were talking about at the beginning, like when the balloon goes up, they've got that resiliency and they know what they can fail at and they know what is the non-fail mission. Because when everything is important, and everything is no fail, then nothing is.
Yeah.
I think that was a Rickover quote from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you guys hit so many things right there, man. I was like, good gracious. Hey, one thing I wanna bring up, like the hard conversations, right? I think that the hard conversation, do you guys agree with this? Do it comes with experience in having them? Like your experience level? Like it's not easy telling somebody that they jack this up if you don't have the experience in having those conversations. And I think that's where I think the soft part come in a little bit there, because we don't have the experience to have those sit downs and have those one-on-ones and to correct somebody on something. That's the only piece I think when it goes to the soft. I think we professional. I think we do a lot of things the right way. I just think sometimes we ease that conversation in instead of, hey, this is how it is. This is what we should be going for, doing. And I think that's one thing. And then, Chaps, you brung up the failure piece. No, we ain't let no one fail. And the first thing come to mind when you said that is throw a khaki at it. Like that is the first thing that I thought about. That's what we do every time. Like if something happened with a sailor, hey, was any khakis there? Who's the leadership? Who's this? So that is a positive. And I didn't have that. Like I came in the 90s, 98, and it was like, you didn't want your chief around there, right? You didn't want nobody. You wanted to get it done and wanted to like impress, blah, blah, blah. And man, I think we lost so much with that too, is like that leadership style and that get it done. And I can get this done mentality. We lost a lot of that, right? Yeah. I think so. I think anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think, Damon, you're talking about like not wanting the chief around. When you were coming up, it was the same for me. Like we didn't want the XO or the department head, interfering in what I was doing as in the division. And what I learned when I became a department head was that the chief was there, but the chief would just kind of walk by and the sailors wouldn't realize that the chief was just checking to make sure that, if they're working on a pipe, that nothing's leaking. That's all they're looking for. And then they'll just keep going. And it may take longer than the chief wanted, but the chief would let them figure it out on their own. And I think that has diminished a little bit. Like I'm spoiled. Personally, I think so, because on my first sub, I had amazing chiefs. A bunch of them made master chief, and in the submarine force, I still would talk to them for years later. And I know that if I were to go talk to one of them today that I haven't seen in 10 or 15 years, it'd be like we were just back on the boat. But they were that type. They were, I'm gonna give this third class petty officer a task that if they fail, it's not going to be the end of the world. But if they do it right, they're going to gain so much confidence that I can give them a bigger responsibility. And it's kind of with that resilience thing we talked about earlier, is it give them responsibility for something small, then something bigger, then something bigger. And then if they do fail, we talk to them about like what went wrong, not flying off the handle screaming at them. But hey, what could I have done to help you succeed in this? Okay, next time that's what we're going to do. And then they're confident, even in their failure, that they can do it again next time, instead of saying, well, I failed at it, so there's no way I'm ever going to do it again.
Yeah. It's that my own confession is that false sense of urgency, and that everything's an emergency kind of thing. And sometimes, like for the leadership above the chiefs, sometimes you just got to understand that like chief's presence is a culmination of everything chief did before that moment. But also that presence matters, right? And I remember being in a space in Central when we lost power to something, and skipper came down, and he was looking at the guys figure it out. I had first classes on it, I had second classes, and he looked at me like, EMC, Like it's time. It's time for you to get. I'm like, they'll win this game. Like they will win the game. You don't need. And I'm not to be cocky, but you don't need Michael Jordan right now. The guy's got it. Like, and just wasn't trying to hear it. You know what I mean? And it was more like just because it was more like a let's get it done type thing. It's like, yo, let's go. This is, we train for this. It's a process. We have this. Like, this is what we do. But wasn't none of that, man. It's like, yo, it's time. It's like, yo, it's been 4 minutes. You could go back. But again, you got a skipper that wants to be there in the fight, a part of it, and all that. And it's like, now that the skipper want to be there in the fight, and a lot of us leaders got to understand that too. Sometimes I do a great job at it. Sometimes I could do better at it. It's like when you're there, right? Trying to make the impact, like, it's like something that you're not at all the time, but when you're there, you just got to be, I was at Command PT this week, and this is my first time there because I was scheduled since the year started, because every time I was like double booked with something that I had to go to and not at Command PT. So this Command PT I was at, I was making an impact. I walked up to the CFL once or twice, whispered something in his ear, and it was things that he needed to, hear. But I liken that to that CO that's in CCS, and it's like, man, things different because you're here right now. Like, just leave, man. We got this. We figure this out, And so some people just need to leave conceptually. Like, you probably don't need to physically leave, but you need to leave conceptually, because you're here, you surveying a scene, you making sure your people doing things the right way. And it's like, if it ain't right, you jumping in, and, So I definitely get that on every side of the house. I got a couple of questions for you, chat, before we try to close.
I got plenty of time. So,
where are you from?
I grew up kind of all over, but I call Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina home.
North Carolina. Okay. And what made the Navy a thing?
So, my dad was a corpsman, and my step-grandfather was a pilot, and my uncle was a pilot.
Okay.
But the reason I joined the Navy was and the reason I joined the submarine force is I want to be an astronaut. And my eyesight sucked. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to be a pilot, because that's a traditional pipeline to become an astronaut. And when I joined, no submarine officer had ever become an astronaut. I was like, well, it's the next technical thing I could do, to prove that I have the engineering ability to go be a mission specialist. And so I did the submarine force. I even applied to go to NASA. I didn't get it, obviously, because life took a different path. But that was the goal, was to become an astronaut. And since then, a submarine guy has become an astronaut. I think he actually went into space. But yeah, that was the why I joined the Navy, was to use it to become an astronaut.
Favorite tour?
Oh, my favorite tour, I'd have to say, was Singapore.
I love Singapore.
Living overseas was amazing.
Yeah.
But that's also where I met my wife and married my wife. And we would go back in a heartbeat. It is the unsung gem of the Navy. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to work. You're in the middle of it in 7th Fleet, because CTF 73 is out there doing all the logistics. That's who I worked with, was Commander Logistics Group, Western Pacific. And yeah, that's where actually Fleet O'Raw was my CMC when I was there. So I got to meet him and learn from him while I was in Singapore as well.
Did you have a house in Singapore?
So you can't buy property there,
Okay.
but I had a condo. So I lived, because when I showed up there, I was single, so I couldn't live in the black and whites in the Navy housing area. But I still lived in Sembawang, so I would ride my bicycle to work every day, to and from.
Yeah.
Lived downtown, right across from a supermarket, and it was dangerous because there was a Thai place right next door that was amazing. kept going to all the time.
Yeah, Singapore. I love Singapore. And they do Halloween right over there. Anybody do, David, that's my favorite holiday, man. Anybody do Halloween right, I gotta respect them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, over by the Singapore American School, like a lot of the expats live there, and it's crazy Halloween over in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got a chaplain question. And you guys probably talk about this so much, but I think it's good we got some civilian listeners too. When it comes to religion, because I guess nothing is discriminated against for a chaplain when it comes to religion. Like, what's the whole, and some of this stuff I know, but what's the whole deal with religion when it comes to a chaplain?
So we are what's called endorsed by our faith group. So for me, I'm a Presbyterian minister, and the Presbyterian Church has given approval for me to go be a Presbyterian minister in the Navy. So when I preach, it's going to be a Presbyterian service, and I come from the religious angle as a Presbyterian minister.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will talk to anybody, I will counsel anybody about anything. And I've taken it upon myself to learn a bunch of different religions. So at least the basics of different religions, so that I can understand how their faith group would process a certain issue. But the other more important thing is that through the chaplain corps, I've made connections with leaders or chaplains of different denominations, different faith groups that I can refer somebody to. Or I also learn about the local area and some of the religious leaders in the communities I serve in, so that if I have a Muslim sailor come to me that needs something that's specifically Muslim, I can refer them to a mosque or to an imam to take care of that, so that I know that they're well taken care of. It's what we call facilitation. So I'm going to facilitate them to get the care they need for the faith group that they're asking about.
So, best advice from a leader and worst advice that you received in the Navy?
I wouldn't say it's the worst advice. It's the worst saying I ever heard a commanding officer say. That enlisted are like fuses. When one blows out, you just replace it.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I knew that was wrong at the time. And everybody in the wardroom looked at each other like, huh?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No. That's crazy.
And I think the best advice, or I don't know where I heard it, but it was recently, and it said, as the commander, my job isn't to make decisions. My job is to set the conditions for people to make the decision. And I thought that was a really powerful way to say, I just need to step back, look at the big picture, and let the people I'm leading do the work, because that's going to give them the confidence and the enthusiasm to do the job, just to sit back and trust the process, trust that I have trained them well enough to do their jobs, and give the rudder steer where I need to. Yeah. Which is kind of how my second CO as a department head worked. I remember he set me down and Brian said, you're the only time you're going to get to practice to be a commanding officer is now. So just look at, the 40 people that in your department as your command, and you just do what you need to do. Like you have your lateral limits, which the instructions give you, and I'll give you rudder steers as needed. He's the same one that gave me my LOI, but I think that was as a learning lab. I think that was just an amazing way to say, here's your practice command. Go and learn and fail and learn how to be a CO now. Because as an XO, you're not going to get that chance. And so the next time you really are in this responsibility is like 4 or 5 years from now after your XO tour, when you come back, and I want you to have at least been practicing to be a CO before you come back on, and sitting in my chair.
Yeah. And yes. And depending on how much scar tissue somebody has, as hard. Sometimes it's a harder sell than it is. That's the type of leader that I am, where it's like, hey, just do your thing. What do you need me to approve? But depending on how much scar tissue somebody got, they feel like they need leadership, the triad to make every decision. Like, well, can we do this? Can we pull out the grill on Thursday afternoons and barbecue hot dogs and burgers? Do you think I'm going to say no? Hey, we didn't barbecue. We didn't pull out the grill because we didn't get a chance to talk to you yet. Like, don't make me. So my advice I tell people is, don't make me a roadblock to like things that we know are like good, beneficial, and positive. Don't let me be a roadblock. I'm going to say yes. For the most part, I want you guys to function wholly, and I want you guys to function without me. Like, I should not stop. First of all, I'm the CMC. I shouldn't be a showstopper for many things, but I should not stop morale. I should not stop us getting better, being better. If you got a committee that you want to start that you think is good, you want to talk to all the men at the command about positive dating habits and all that, come to the office. Let's talk about it and do it. So I do like that, thought process, but I do know some people, that's hard for them to receive it. Some people get offended.
It's also hard because, at the 0506 level, the commanders that are 0506, they're the ones that are on the, like, if things go south, they're going to get fired, or relieved. And so I think there's that fear of, I can make one decision, or not them, but like somebody under me can make one bad decision and then I'm out. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of commanders need to not hold on so tight to command. Mm-hmm. And you've made it. Like, you've just got to trust that you're doing it the right way. And I can say that from a perspective that, I've seen a bunch of commanders, but I also have to admit and throw out the caveat, I've never been in command. So there are other pressures that even I don't understand from the outside, and seeing how lonely it is in that seat for them, that I get where they come from, but sometimes you just got to say, you're already at your 20-year point. You can let the next generation get a chance at it too.
Yeah. And then sometimes you just be surprised how things go when you let off the person's shoulder. Sometimes things don't go as you. That's been a very big conversation, even like where I work, and I won't get specific, but things have been done in the past that created restrictions before my time. I get there, I'm looking around like, where am I? What's going on over here? You know what I mean? So I'm like asking questions, making recs, and it's like, all right, well, is it worth trying it? Let's try it. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. Me and my CEO been talking. He's like, man, every time we try something, it's worked out. So why not keep doing it? We can't forever live in our mistakes, or forever live in trying to avoid every single risk that we haven't even seen what would happen if we did the alternative, so yeah. I think it's a good. Another question I got, and this is another one of them informative questions. What's the relationship between chaplains and RPs?
So I've been lucky that I've had great RPs. I know sometimes there's personality conflicts and they just don't gel. I liken it a lot to the CO-CMC relationship. Mm-hmm. It's more probably like a first sergeant and a company commander, just in terms of on the Marine side is probably the easiest way to, or a department head and a chief and their department chief is probably the better relationship. Right now the RP, I just the command I'm leaving, she's amazing, and we spend a little bit of time every Monday getting on the same page, and then I go do my chaplain things, and she's taking care of the RPs and making sure that they're doing what they need to do. But what the important part the RP does for the chaplain is I know that as an officer, a lot of junior enlisted aren't necessarily going to come to me first. And so because of that, they'll probably go to the RP first. And if you have a good RP chaplain relationship, the RP is just going to tell that sailor, hey, Chaps is decent. Chaps is a good dude. You can talk to him or her and they're going to take care of you. And it helps bridge that gap between the junior enlisted and the chaplain. As I've gotten more senior, having that RP able to do that is more and more important, because as a commander, especially the recruits, they look at me like a battalion commander and they're like, I don't know if I want to talk to this guy, but somebody else to be that mediator to say, well, it's a little different than you think. Like, yes, he is a commander, but that rank isn't as important in the conversation and getting you the help you need. And so the RP can really get the pulse of the deck plate and know what the junior sailors are thinking and complaining about or enjoying about the command, that we can feed that to the triad. And that symbiotic relationship between the two, the RP and the chaplain, is key to any good command climate.
Yeah, I ran into some wild RPs, man. Like, yo, what's your rate? Is religious in your rate, man? And another thing you brought up, Chaps, earlier, and I meant to speak on it when you brought it up, but you said, like, in the school, they say don't be weird, right? That's one of the things that I ran into. You talk about some chaplains, man, and it's nothing like a weird chaplain, man. That's the worst thing you want to see, is like just like the Mr. Burns lurking chaplain. Like, it's like, here come, like, you never want to see Chaps and be like, here come Chaps, man. like you want to go talk to Chaps. So I'm glad they teach that in school, and as like stupid or funny as it might sound, I'm glad they teach that in school, because it's repulsive. If you see like a weird Chaps is repulsive almost. It's like, man, we're not going to talk to him.
And we've seen that, and that's why they bring it up at school, is because it happens, and it's rarer and rarer. Like, I think over my 30 years in the Navy, I think that type of person is not as frequent as it was years ago, but they're still there. And I think that's why people notice them more, is because it's typically the chaplains that I've run into over the last 15 years. 99.9% are all outgoing. They'll go and even if they don't smoke, they're at the smoke pit. They're doing the things to talk to people on a normal level and to get to know them as people. So, but you're right. If that one person can really affect somebody's view of the entire chaplain corps for their whole career.
Yeah. And a good Chaps is out there solving command problems. We had our chaplain. He like, hey man, I saw a lot of your sailors eating like Lunchables, man. Like, what y'all feeding them? I'm like, well, let's talk about it, Chaps. and just from that conversation, and that was early on in my tour at the command. And from that conversation on, like, a big part of my mission has been like healthy food options, more food options. Just from that conference. Now, Chaps did say he was going to fire up a griddle and make pancakes a couple times a month. He ain't done that yet, but we going to talk about that.
I think a more professional way to say that don't be weird, and this is what I tell my chaplains, is be a solution, not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's multiple ways to attack an issue. So just have a solution, like be the person that's going to bring a solution and not the problem that the CO has to deal with all the time.
Yeah.
And that's going to buy you a lot of runway with your command, both the triad and the sailors, is that if they know that Chaps isn't a problem and that Chaps is out there solving problems, like, bringing up the Lunchables and things like that.
Yeah. Do you have it? You brought up do-betters earlier. Do you have one?
Oh, I mean, living in Southern California, I'll say California drivers need to do better about getting out of the left lane if you're going slow. But I think it goes back to what I said. I think we just need to do better about, like, as a Navy-wide culture of letting people like have a little bit of leeway to give them permission to fail at little things so they learn how to succeed at big things.
Mm. Yeah. You got one, Damon?
Man, my do better, man, this time is the veterinarians, man. Like the medicine prices is crazy, man. Medicine prices are crazy. You know what I did learn, Dumbo, that I didn't know about the medicine? Like, my wife went to Costco to get the medicine, man. How about the medicine that we was paying $90 for is like freaking $21 at Costco, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but just it was up in there because we didn't know this, so we just buying everything the dog need, man. It was crazy, man. That the prices of that stuff, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, mine is, and I'm gonna make it quick. Is stop expecting people to do. Stop demanding from people things that you're not willing to do yourself. Right. Especially to the leaders out there. Right. If you don't want to do it, if it's impossible for you to get done on time or do it, stop acting like you different when you asking for it from somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big one for me. And I'm gonna go my pick of the week too. My pick of the week, I'm gonna just hit it. It's Unlearn by Humble the Poet. Right. So we had Alex on a last episode, Damon, and he recommended this book, Unlearn by Humble the Poet. I'm gonna give my honest opinion on this book. This is a good book for somebody just getting into self-help, motivational kind of books, right? This is not the book for the 39-year-old self-help grizzly vet. I done been through a million different self-help books that I'm self-helped out. I think I'm done with self-help. I think I'm done with self-help, the genre, I'm about to lean into fiction and leadership and stuff like that. But this, if I was to get this to my 21-year-old nephew, I think he would get a lot of new ideas, fresh ideas from Humble the Prophet. I think I'm just a little too old and a little too experienced in the genre to fully appreciate the book. So I gave it a 3 out of 5, and I thank Alex for the recommendation. And I'm happy that I'm still happy that I'm finished it because I'm on to another book. A book that Aaron recommended called Stolen Valor or something like that, Broken Valor or something like that. I'm reading that right now. But yeah, so that's my pick of the week.
Yeah, I don't have a pick of the week this week, man.
You got one, Chad?
I could probably go on for days about good books to read. I will put other than presidential seclusion. Obviously, that's my pick of the week. I will say, I'll put a plug in. Before we started recording, you'd seen one of the Clancy books on my shelf, and a shipmate of mine got to write 3 of the Tom Clancy books. He was on my first boat with me, Brian Andrews. Mm-hmm. And so he's got a whole series with his co-author, and all their books are fun reads. And so I recommend all of Andrews and Wilson's book. And also I just recently read a book by one of my nuke power instructors, Bob Ronska. It's called Beyond the Sea. Mm-hmm. And it talks a little bit that the leadership stuff we've been talking about. His concept is leading with love, and it's not like romantic love, but like brotherly love, like how to have those hard conversations, how to approach leadership in a way that brings the best out of everybody. And I highly recommend that as a good leadership book to read through. He was a submarine CO, became the Commodore of Submarine Squadron 7 before he retired.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd recommend that. Beyond the Sea.
Beyond the Sea. One of the things that I'm not going to forget the name, that's Bobby Darin right there, man. Bobby D. So we get people on a lot. We get guests on a lot. And I feel like sometimes we bypass or we don't talk about family. And family is like super important for us, for all of us. Sometimes it kind of seems more important for leaders. As some of us are younger and we haven't established family yet. You told me that you were married. You got kids?
No kids, just a little fur baby.
Oh, y'all living good. My daughter was just crying for like 40 minutes, man. Like, y'all living good. I mean, now that comes with, things, I'm not sure if you ever tried or not to have children, but I'm assuming life is you guys get to travel, kind of do what you want.
We travel when we can. I mean, it's, there's still like the job's the job. And I think once I transition out, I don't want to call it retirement. Once I transition out and start drawing a pension, I'll have a little more freedom for that. But I think that's one of the things, the unspoken sacrifices of serving is that the jobs just sometimes can be so all demanding that you don't really get to do some of the things you want or travel to see their family and friends that you've made over the years. And it's more like this, just over Zoom and text messages to check in on everybody.
Yeah. Is it something that you want to do when you retire? Like some plan, some grand plan or some retirement plan or some like bucket list thing that you just can't wait, like a retirement bucket list that you have?
I would love just to keep writing and make that the sole focus. But it's tough to make a career in writing. Very few people get to do that. I've always joked that if Formula One or the UFC ever wanted to establish a chaplain program, I would jump at that. I think UFC could use some chaplains, and I would jump to be a chaplain for UFC.
They sure do. I think I agree with that.
Yeah, because
we love it now that it's on Paramount because we can see all the numbered UFCs. Because when we lived in Singapore, we could see them all because it was part of the regular cable package. But now we've got Paramount. So
somebody in college sports have like embedded religious. Is it football?
So a lot of college football teams do. Some teams pay, some teams don't. NFL teams, usually it's a volunteer that comes in on the Sundays for chaplains. A lot of professional baseball teams have chaplains just because the season's so long. Yeah. And it just depends. There's no set way or how there's no set model of who does what in terms of that.
Yeah, a young man got out of my command and he said he got out the Navy, medical reasons, but he said he was going on to, I think he was about to preach to college wrestlers or something. I don't know who, but he was going to be like their chaplain or something like that. So I think it's a budding kind of like thing that's happening.
Sometimes they'll do chaplains. Other times they'll bring in leadership coaches. It just depends on what model that specific sport or even the inside the sport, what the specific team wants to use to fulfill, again, to help their athletes flourish and be the best they can be.
Yeah. That'd be cool too. That'd be another book too. That'd be real cool.
Yeah,
that's good right there.
Get bit by the bug. Probably go into like the history of it too. Like, hey, online, right? Social media, all of those things. Where do you exist online?
So there's a website, charlesfergusonbooks.com. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Charles Ferguson Books. And then on X as C Ferguson Books. Apparently, Charles Ferguson Books was too long of a handle for X.
They got a one letter name, they don't got time. So I got two more questions.
Yeah.
This question is how did you find us?
So Bill Houlihan went on your podcast a couple of years ago. And I don't know if he put it on Facebook. Somehow I found out he was on your podcast. And I was his chaplain. He was CMC of the Milius. Because they were in Desron 21. Love him. He's a great leader. I enjoyed the podcast. And I thought it was just a really cool place for, I think both of you guys were just you might have just been Chiefs at the time. Well, not just Chiefs, but you guys, I think, were Chiefs at the time. And you were coming at describing how to be a Chief from I think a good place. You're trying to acknowledge that there's some issues in the Chiefs mess and working to make it better, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I've always respected Bill, and I thought that was just a great episode. And so I kept coming back. I don't listen every week, but if there's somebody's got an interesting rating or an interesting story, I'll listen. And, obviously in Southern California traffic, between the total commute time of 2 hours for a day, I can listen to a whole episode.
Yeah.
And so, it was, you can blame
Bill
Houlihan for putting me onto you guys.
Yeah,
nice.
Cool. I think like eventually we gonna start like reposting some. We did it like 2 years ago where we would like repost some episodes that might have been like impactful or something like that. I think like every now and then, if we take a day off or something like that, we'll pull back some episode. Like his episode one day might get pulled back. It's super relevant outside of the one policy that we talked about. It's still a lot of relevancy in that episode. My last question is this. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to leave the chaplain corps and the Navy in general better than I found it. Mm-hmm. And not just in terms of the Navy, but the people that are in it. And I've seen a little bit of that as well. Watching, the sailors that I worked with as a submarine officer succeed, not just in the submarine force, but in life in general. Mm-hmm. And if that's what I'm doing, then I'm happy with that. The one that really sticks out to me is there was I think he came on board the Buffalo as a seaman and just retired last year as a SWO commander. Just worked his way up, prior enlisted. I think he went LDO and then shifted over to be an 1110. So just watching the progression of somebody that keeps making their life better. And I had a small part in that. I'm not saying it was me, but to watch him grow and to see people grow over time, that's just been the best part of being in the positions I've been in. And it's fun to share in those triumphs and celebrations with people that I've known for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's definitely the best part of it. That's like, I tell people, like, some of the advice I give people when they be like, yo, I don't know where to turn. I'm losing energy. I'm losing focus. I'm like, well, where do you get your wins from? When I was an EM3, my wins came from fixing gear. When I was an EM2, my wins came from fixing gear and taking care of my people, making sure that they tracking where they're supposed to be. When I was an EM1, my wins came from my people, taking care of them, making sure they fixing the gear, getting things done like that, and every now and then fixing a major piece of gear. As an EMC, my wins came from my EM1, taking care of my people, making sure that they were fixing gear, and then my people also as an EMCS, the whole division, what we doing, what wins we getting, how are we doing, right? Unfortunately, I didn't get to be an EMCM, but as a CMC, the command, right? How we doing? Like, what's different this year than last year? How is this place better than it was, right? So you got to take another look at where you're getting your wins from when you start to get burned out. And you'll see that, like, fixing gear or that thing you did, let's say you're a CS, like making that meal is not going to feel the same as a senior chief cook, right? Like it's that seller that you invested in, that time, that person, you get to see them grow up to be a leader, stuff like that. I'll say this, this was a hard episode for us to start. You know how much trouble we was kind of going through chaps in the beginning, even before we started, just figuring out the approach to the conversation, how we were going to have it. We took a week off, and in the week we took off, things happened. Things happened. The world started burning a little bit more than it's already been burning. We were trying to figure out the best way that we could. I feel like we got lucky having you. Like timing was just perfect. Just to have you as a guest, I think this is the right way to come back after a week off. And I appreciate you sitting with us. I feel like we might have only scratched the surface, and all the time and all the experience you have. You probably got sea stories for days, and a bunch of stories you can't tell as a chaplain and as somebody that worked at Camp David. It's a bunch of stories you can't.
And the submarine stuff.
Yeah, and some stuff, right, that you can't tell. But man, I appreciate you being on this podcast, and you got the extended invite. You could you got the link too, so you could come, you could drop in whenever you want. You could hit us up whenever you want. You'll know quick if it's an ignorant episode, if we get into some good stuff.
Yeah. Hey,
yeah. Oh, go ahead, Damon.
Oh, yeah. Also, chaps, I appreciate you coming on the pod. And just so you know, that the chaplains are in my leadership toolbox, right? So I most definitely know where to go. And also, I wanted to add to that. Thank you for coming on the pod. Like Dumbo said, it was good having you on here for this one. And man, I had one more question, but
Ask it.
I wanted to ask about your toughest moment. Right? We always have these moments in the Navy. I wanted to ask you about your toughest moment, not career, moment that you had.
Yeah, I know that one right off the bat. And March 18th, 2013, I was with 1st 99th Marines. I was their chaplain. We were at the Hawthorne Range in Nevada, and they were, one of the companies was, I think it was Alpha Company, was running a range, and we had a mortar explosion that killed 7 Marines in an instant. And I wasn't up on the range with them. I was about a mile away. I heard a bunch of helicopters that woke me up. I was like, that's kind of weird. I haven't felt that. I haven't heard that before over the last few days. And then went back to sleep. And then I got woken up by a first sergeant saying, hey, we need you. There's been an accident. And so the next few days, few weeks, just dealing with that. But that moment when, it wasn't that moment that was the hardest. It was when the company came back down off the range to where we were sleeping, the campsite, and just the emotional carnage that was in front of me, and guys kicking Kevlar helmets, and that was a tough night. And we could go into the whole backstory about that in another conversation if I come back on, but I was scheduled to leave I was leaving the battalion in 2 months. And so luckily it was one of those, I was the right guy at the right place at the right time because I knew everybody.
Yeah.
I think if a new chaplain had been there, it'd have been tough without having the connections they did. So that was probably my toughest moment in my career.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for sharing that, chaps. It's tough. Yeah, man. Oof.
Yeah, you got us ending on a heavy. That was
well,
I didn't want to. You started on a heavy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But how about this? I'll flip it with the best moment.
Yeah, it's the best moment.
There were 2. The first was when I was a submarine officer, and the department I was leading, weapons department, we turned around and went from the worst weapons department on the waterfront to the best, and we won the tactical T back in 2006. And then the other one is the best week of my Navy career is I got to go to Fleet Week in New York City in 2012. And I will tell anybody that gets to go to Fleet Week, New York, make sure you go. Do not take leave and go enjoy that week.
I went there. I was there. as a seller. I was a junior seller of the year. I was Fleet Week, New York. Yep.
It's something else.
Yeah. I had a good time. You been, Damon?
No.
Yeah. I had a great time in New York. They treated me good too. Especially as a junior seller of the year, they treated me good. I was going on parties and events that I didn't expect to be going to and stuff. It was a good time, my boys would be like, "Hey man, we gonna go check out such and such." I'd be like, "Man, I got this event, man. You know, I'm just yeah, man."
Hey.
Yeah, I had a good one. Hey, Chaps, had a good one. Like I said, you got an open invite whenever you want to come. We might reach out to you. I think it's important that we have a connection with just the Chaplain Corps and the chaplain for different things. So we might want to, if you don't mind, just kind of connecting with you.
Anytime, just let me know, and when I can make time, I'll do my best to hop on, hop off as I can in my schedule. And I think you're right. I think the Chaplain Corps, the more that we can interact with CMCs, the Chiefs Mess, to one, show what the value we can bring to your leadership and taking care of your sailors, the better we're all going to be. The bigger wins we're going to have, and the more sailors we're going to be able to retain. And if we don't retain them, at least make them better and make them flourish and give them the skills that the sailors need to succeed in life outside the Navy.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's it.
All right, man. Peace out, man.
Peace out.
Mississippi. Stand up.
Enjoy y'all's weeks. Love y'all.
Yeah, you too. All right. Peace out.